In the wee hours of the morning, around 1 a.m., a U-Haul vehicle being driven by an unknown individual tried to reverse at high speed into law enforcement in Alameda, California, who were aiming weapons at the vehicle, seemingly expecting a threat. This was at an anti-ICE protest outside of the Coast Guard base, Coast Guard Island in Alameda, where federal agents were being housed for a potential upcoming ICE action in the Bay Area. However, Trump had called this off after an intervention from big tech CEOs and other political elements, we'll put it like that. So we don't know the real reason why he called it off, but he did. After this protest began to die down, we saw this moment. It appears to be a terror attack. Perhaps you can call it low scale. We don't know if this person was truly intending to run over this group of law enforcement, but they certainly reversed at high speed. 2 people were shot, the driver and a bystander. We don't know if the bystander was involved in the protest, but this is just another story in a long line of extreme actions that we have seen over the past several months with several terror attacks on ICE facilities, shootings, or otherwise, which I believe has resulted in many federal agents being completely on edge. We now have bounties being put on the heads of DHS officers in Chicago from Latin King gang members as well as other gangs, and a fear that this will only continue to escalate. In the meantime, Democrats are saying that ICE agents have been detaining U.S. citizens in these raids, and that federal law enforcement and worse still, National Guard being deployed into their cities is tyranny. And many prominent liberals saying, you've got to stand up now, push back on Trump. He's trying to be a king. And they march saying, no kings. So we're going to debate this, talk a bit about what's currently going on and the scale of escalation and whether or not Donald Trump is truly a king. We'll be having this debate. We are being joined by several individuals. Good sir, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Sure. Thanks for having me. Brian Shapiro, do a show called Pushing the Limits. I am an independent that is extremely anti-Donald Trump. We probably disagree on a lot of politics today, Tim, but I appreciate you inviting me on the program, and it's good to be here.
Absolutely. We also have Tate, who's hanging out.
What's going on?
Oh, your mic's not on.
My mic's
You're
on.
being censored.
There you go.
I'm being censored by the deep state already for my pro-Trump beliefs. This is unbelievable. Tate Brown here, holding it down. I'm excited to be here. This is going to be a fun panel.
I'm Austin Padgett, the third pro-Trump panelist today. I co-host a show called History 102.
But you're a libertarian, right?
Yes, super libertarian.
This was the challenge, and that's why I was also like, we have the seat open, and I told Tate, I was like, maybe you should just sit in. We'll get more of a conversation. But it certainly does feel like a pile on for Brian.
No, I don't mind.
I figured you'd be all right with it.
No, I'm good.
But we intentionally said, let's get a libertarian, and he's still pro-Trump.
You'd have 100 MAGAs here, and I wouldn't care.
I was like, I'm a fairly moderate. I'm pro-Trump. Tate is, I guess, conservative, Christian, pro-Trump. Yeah. And then I said, we should get a libertarian because that's sort of in between, but it's still just everyone's pro-Trump.
It's okay. I'm all right.
I can still say something that annoys people from all sides.
You got to try and get closer to...
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, you might have to pull the chair in or something.
But I'm not a liberal, though, to be fair.
No.
I did not vote for Barack Obama. I did not vote for Hillary Clinton. I dislike Donald Trump. I think the only person in this country that hates Trump more than I do may be Melania. I don't know. But I am extremely anti-Donald Trump for a lot of different reasons.
Well, let's start with this story that we just saw. I'll line it up a little bit. So we just had this protest over the weekend. No kings. One of the most effective protests we have seen in the history of the United States. As following the protest, there are no kings. So congratulations to the protesters. They've succeeded. We don't have any kings. But the actual claim there is that Donald Trump is a tyrant. He is trying to be a king. He wants to be a dictator. And all of these things. However, at the same time, we are seeing a string of an escalation of political violence, terror attacks, from the Tesla attacks to the ICE facility attacks. And now liberals are claiming, or I should say the left, the anti-ICE, that these actions from federal law enforcement officers in blue cities is tyrannical. And so I don't know if someone wants to, maybe you want to kick it off, what your stance is.
Well, first of all, here are my issues with this. Number one, you have a lot of agents across the country that are not identifying themselves as agents. Outside of courtrooms, tackling people, outside of Home Depot, that's against the law. You have to identify yourself. Something needs to say that you're ICE. You can't just go somewhere and tackle somebody and not say you're law enforcement. So that's a big issue, number one. Number two, most of the people, more than 50% of the people that are being detained by ICE and or deported are nonviolent criminals. We were told by the Trump administration that they were going to focus on very violent criminals.
Well, that's a non sequitur.
Well, but you're asking me what my issues are with this, and I'm just going through the list of.
So I'll push back on that one because whether or not they want to prioritize versus who they're actually deporting it's a non sequitur. I don't understand why. Trump said he was going to deport everybody. He is. It appears they are targeting criminals, and they are largely also in this process getting general criminal aliens.
So are you comfortable, Tim, with people that have never committed a violent crime or a felony being sent to El Salvador type prisons?
They're not all
are you
going
comfortable
to El
with that? Not all of them. I never said that, but some of them are. Are you comfortable?
That's a bit of a straw man.
Well, I'm just asking you if you're comfortable with that.
Am I comfortable in the circumstance where a criminal illegal alien who entered this country, and we don't know to which number, so I guess I could say there's certainly going to be errors in any and all law enforcement. Kamala Harris famously, I'm not saying you support her, but she famously had people kept in prison beyond their release dates, using them as slave labor and things like that. Actually, that's a bad example. I just don't like Kamala Harris. But mistakes happen in law enforcement. We want to mitigate them. They shouldn't happen. U.S. citizens being detained for 24 hours in New York shouldn't happen. But the question is of malice. So if, I don't know, to what degree are we going to accept nonviolent illegal immigrants being sent to what is it called? CICOT? What is it called?
CICOT.
CICOT. There you go. In El Salvador, and it's no, nonviolent individuals should not. Then there's another layer to the question, and that is, what if the country will not accept them back? Where do we send them? Now it's getting really muddy and messy, because if we don't have extradition treaties or treaties in general for handing deportations of foreign nationals, well, they don't just get to stay here. So I'm not suggesting they should go to CICOT, but now we've got Kilmar going to, I guess, Uganda or whatever, Uganda.
Well, listen, I think 99% of the country would agree that if you're a violent criminal in this country illegally, you should be deported. I'm one of those people. I think there needs to be some sort of pathway to citizenship for people that are nonviolent criminals that have lived in this country for decades, some of whom do pay taxes. I think there's a better way to do it than the way the Trump administration is doing it. I want border security. I'm not one of those people that thinks that the border should be wide open. Okay.
How many times are we going to do amnesty though? It's like this, like the fourth, right?
I understand that, but I also don't like it when Dr. Phil is there with a microphone making it a spectacle. I feel like there's glee in this. Obama deported a lot of people as well, but I don't think they enjoyed it. I feel like, and this is my personal opinion, that those in the Trump administration and Donald Trump are making it a spectacle. Like they're liking the fact that families are being separated. I think that's immoral.
Well, that's like an emotional reaction. That's not a fact.
Well, but
I can't debate how you feel about what Trump is doing.
You think it's emotional? Dr. Phil has said, "Hey, come on down here with Tom Homan and let's interview these people that have handcuffs on them."
You got a problem with Dr. Phil?
I have a problem with making it into a reality show. This is not a reality show. This is real life.
Agreed. Dr. Phil, you knock it off.
I'm not a Dr. Phil fan anyway, Tim. But listen, I just think you're asking me my thoughts on this whole situation, and I don't like the way Trump is going about it. Why is it that he wants white people from South Africa in this country with open arms, but he doesn't want black people from South Africa in this country? Why is that, Tim?
When did he say that?
Well, look at what he did. 10 South Africans were with this.
10 people?
I think this was like 3 months ago, welcoming them with open arms with their families, but they all happened to be white. I find that very convenient.
Because there are white people being killed in South Africa.
Yeah, but why is it that he doesn't do the same for people of color? Let's welcome you with open arms.
Because the black people in South Africa are the majority and are the ones chanting "kill the Boer."
The government there is a black nationalist government.
You don't find that okay?
You can say it's racial, but it's clearly also very politically aligned. Like the politics of the South African grievance politics and the communism versus the European descendant South Africans who are more free market and more in favor of property rights. So there's an obvious political overlap here.
And there was a white guy, just an illegal immigrant, was just he was a police officer, and they deported him. So it's like I don't think it lends itself to the argument when it's 10 South Africans or one white guy being deported.
Well, I think it comes down to compassion if we're talking about this situation. And there are people in Trump's administration, and I know this goes into the healthcare situation, but there are people that do not believe if you're an undocumented immigrant and you're dropped off at an ER and you need life-saving care, that you should not get that life-saving care, that we should be asking for your paperwork. That is not the country, Tim, that I want to live in. That is no compassion. I'm not saying undocumented immigrants should be getting free health care. And by the way, they don't qualify for Obama's subsidies anyway. But if somebody is dying and they're undocumented, Okay, they should be able to get the care that they need in a hospital, and I'm okay paying for that.
I mean, that
We're all
argument,
human beings.
that argument works if Biden didn't let in, on the low end, 10 million illegal immigrants.
Well, you could use the term "let in." I'm not going to sit here and defend Biden when it comes to all the undocumented immigrants that came into this country. Clearly, he didn't do a good job.
There's a math question, right? So, you know, the famous saying, you must secure your own mask before securing the mask of the person sitting next to you. And that's a great analogy because when the pressure drops, if you're too busy trying to help someone else, you pass out and then no one gets help.
Let me flat out ask you, Tim. If somebody is undocumented in this country, I'm not even talking about a violent criminal, somebody who's in this country, undocumented immigrant, they're having a heart attack. Do you believe that if they're dropped off at an ER, that those doctors should not be asking them for their paperwork, that they should try to save their life first?
First and foremost, doctors should just render aid to anybody who's ailing. You
Okay.
It's like,
I agree, but there's some people that don't agree with you.
but it's not about an illegal immigrant. If like Tate had a heart attack, God forbid, at such a young
Got a
age.
lot of Arby's, so I mean.
I know. Okay, doctors.
So you eat like Trump, then? That's what you're saying.
Oh yeah.
Meat doesn't give you heart attacks anymore. It's not the 90s.
I believe in life force. I
But
think the Big Mac does something.
The issue
for
isn't
you.
illegal immigrants. The issue is literally anybody suffering. If a doctor said, well, hold on there, gosh darn minute, let me see some paperwork, that means citizens are going to be denied emergency health care.
Well, here's the deal.
Like you'll die before the doctor can treat you if they're worried about your paperwork.
I don't want to live in a country where somebody is dying and they ask for their paperwork first. Tim, I don't want to live in a country like that.
Because, like I said, it's it's not even a question of illegal immigrants. It's a question of literally anybody going to the hospital being stopped and before they're rendered aid. It's like he's a citizen. He's good. No, we don't have time for that.
Exactly, I agree with you.
So, but the bigger question is
People in the Trump administration do not agree with you.
Well,
on that.
that's a bit of an extreme example, though, because in emergency circumstances, however, the argument of should illegal immigrants generally get medical treatment from our facilities at the taxpayer expense?
In the emergency room, I say yes.
In the case of absolute emergencies, indeed. What if someone shows up to the emergency room and they're like, something's wrong with my hand, it hurts?
Well, that's a different circumstance. Obviously, I'm not talking about, if somebody
You said you said in the emergency room.
Life-saving care. That's not life-saving care.
So this is the issue. Most of the people in the emergency room are not getting life-saving care.
Well,
So in the event someone's having a heart attack or bleeding out, they were shot, whatever, no one's going to stop, and no one should. They should just treat the person. But you go to the emergency room, what do you see? People are all sitting in chairs waiting because So I went to the emergency room in August because I had my throat swole up so bad I thought I was gonna choke out and die. Went there, and I was like, my throat's killing me, and they're like, have a seat.
Tim, we live in one of the richest countries in the world.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but. They demanded my papers when I went to the emergency room. In fact, I watched them demand everyone's papers. Hold on. I just went to the emergency room, and when I walked in, every single person who walked up to the counter and said, here's my problem, they said, papers, please. They said, I need your ID. Do you have insurance? And everybody provided their identification.
And even
That's
if it's
normal.
an emergency, can't you check the ID or paperwork on the back end after the operation?
Like that you bring them in to do the life-saving
But
care.
here's what I don't understand, Tim, about your argument. You don't want these ERs to be crowded. In the big and beautiful bill, which I
didn't say
would,
that.
well, it sounded to me like, you want Americans to get care. You don't want people to have to wait. You don't want people in there that maybe have a hand
anything.
pain. Well, okay. Well, maybe I'm misinterpreting
So I
what you
said one of the arguments is that emergency room care, medical care in general, shouldn't be at the cost of taxpayer.
Well, let's kill that argument right now. Look at the big and beautiful bill. 15 to 20 million people are going to lose their Medicaid coverage. When people lose their Medicaid coverage, they get sick. When people get sick, they go to the ER. When people go to the ER, those rooms get full. I don't understand.
Who are these people?
I'm talking about Americans right now that are going to lose their Medicaid coverage.
Like the
Those
demographic is older.
They're older rich people. One of the ways they saved money on the Medicare fraud was they looked through and looked how many millionaires were collecting benefits. And how much fraud. There was a ton of fraud and a ton of millionaires collecting benefits.
And the Democrats want to give illegal immigrants health care.
It was an easy part of
That's
it to
not
cut.
necessarily true, but I would say
it's necessarily true because Democrats changed the definition of what an illegal immigrant is, and now the ACA benefits will be extended to anybody who says the word asylum.
Well, 30% of people that are working right now are not offered medical benefits. Okay, those are not lazy people, as many in the Trump administration would say.
Well, that doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about.
Well, it has to do with medical coverage and the fact that the guy who you support, Donald Trump, is in this big and beautiful bill. 20 million people are going to lose their medical coverage. Those are not undocumented immigrants, and those are not all millionaires either. Many of those
so
people
they are
people
giving
that
illegal
work.
immigrants health care.
No, well,
they're trying to.
Okay, they're trying to doesn't mean they are.
Democrats
That's
are trying to, yes.
subjective. But 30% of the workforce, people that are working in this country, American citizens, are not not offered health care benefits. 49% of them can't afford it. And people in the Trump administration and people on the right want to make the argument, these are just lazy people that are on the couch that don't want to work. It's not true.
That's a straw man.
I don't think it's a straw man at all.
I talked to the guys
you can't argue
who made this policy. I talked to the guys in the HHS who identified the people who were either fraudulent benefits or very rich people. Like there was a huge, obviously a ton of people are collecting benefits who shouldn't be or don't necessarily need them. And 15 to 20 million is, I mean, you could probably pull more than that without affecting people who really need it.
The point about people who don't get benefits or can't afford it, it's like there's no reality where you go up to a Democrat or a Republican and say, do you want to take a working class Americans or a poor person's health care? No one's going to say yes.
Okay,
That's
well,
just, like not of any.
let me ask you
maybe
a
a libertarian.
We can talk about how to make healthcare.
So out of those 15 to 20
cheaper.
million people that are going to be losing their Medicaid coverage if the big and beautiful bill,
Was it based on what he said that they were ripping off the system?
there's always going to be a small percentage. I hate this argument. There's always going to be a small percentage of people that are going to take advantage of the system. We could be talking about welfare. We could be talking about unemployment benefits. But many of these government benefits or maternity leave, Republicans hate it. They want to get rid of it. They want to abolish it. And I'm sorry, I disagree with that. There's always going to be a small percentage of people that are going to take advantage of the system. That doesn't mean the majority of the people should have to suffer for it. That's exactly, Tim.
Who's the majority that are suffering?
People that are living paycheck to paycheck that are working. The 30% of the people that are working right now that are not offered health care benefits.
That's
The
not a
49.
But that small percent you can still target.
It's not a majority, but it's still 30. It's a lot of people.
Hold on. You said a majority of people suffering, then cited a minority. It seems like
It's a lot of people, Tim.
No one said it wasn't.
Yeah.
The point is you're saying things that are consistently just not, it's a non sequitur over and over and over again. It's like Donald Trump sending these troops and now the sky is cloudy. And I'm like, okay, those things aren't related to each other.
We're talking about the emergency. I'll tell you why they are. We're talking about the emergency room, people that need care. I'm telling you that millions and millions of Americans are going to be losing their health care coverage.
Specifically how? Let's break it down.
Specifically how? I just told you.
What? You didn't?
30% of people that are working are not offered health care.
That is not the same thing. Again, non sequitur, bro. Stop. Okay. 30% of people not being offered by their job health care is not the same as Trump passing a bill will take health care away from people.
So who is he taking away Medicaid from?
I'm asking you that.
I'm answering it.
Who?
We start off with 49% of the people that are working, that are offered health care, that can't afford it. Those are people that are struggling. You can look up those stats if you don't believe
let's try this again. You're saying currently right now, 30% of people are not offered health care.
That work, yes.
That sucks.
It's terrible.
Okay, now Trump's trying to pass a bill. You're saying that bill will take health care away from people.
Absolutely.
Okay, so these are two separate things.
No, the 30% of people are on Medicaid right now. Many of those people are on Medicaid.
Is that a status quo thing?
Well, so I'm.
How are they not related? I don't know.
So that's what I'm asking you. Who are the people in this bill that are going to lose their health care?
It's a wide range of people. The reason why I brought up the 30% is those are some of the people that are going to be losing their
so
Medicaid.
two different things.
Okay, but you're asking me who's going to be losing their health care coverage. Yes, there's going to be a percentage of people that are lazy. Yes, there's going to be a small
I didn't say any of that.
I'm saying that. There's going to be a small percentage of people that maybe are taking advantage of the system. There's also going to be a lot of Americans in this country that are working 2 or 3 jobs that can't afford their health care.
So let's slow down. Okay.
I would say it's not as small of a percent as you think. And 15 to 20 million people easily fits in that range of
fraudulent benefits.
And
so what is the bill doing that will take away Medicare or Medicaid from these people?
They are cutting medical benefits and Medicaid from people that they believe do not deserve it. However, many of the people that are working are going to be losing their Medicaid coverage. You could look up the bill and you could look up the literature in the bill, and it specifically doesn't say, well, if you're working, we're not going to take your medical coverage away. They can say that on Fox News.
Is that what it is? You have to be working in order to receive benefits or something?
That's one of them, I think.
I think if they were taking away all this medical spending, then I would hear libertarians being happy about it. But they're just complaining. So
yeah, like Massey, for instance, said that the Republican version of the bill is basically advancing the Biden era spending. It's going to stay basically where it is, and Democrats are asking for more.
Well,
maybe this is wrong.
My understanding is that Democrats want it to be what it was before the big and beautiful bill came into play. That's my understanding. I don't believe this is a Chuck Schumer government shutdown. I do not believe that.
My understanding, so like the core of this debate over the government shutdown and the spending bill is that Democrats want to extend the ACA benefits to refugees, asylum seekers, and DACA recipients.
That's part of it, sure.
Republicans said absolutely not, because those are illegal immigrants.
Well, when you talk about asylum seekers, I think that's some gray area. But what Democrats want to put in place or to keep in place before the big and beautiful bill is being implemented. That's my basic understanding.
It's like Big Beautiful Bill number 2, because they did have the other one. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, look, I don't agree with the right blaming Chuck Schumer, calling it the Schumer shutdown. I understand the votes that they need. I understand how many Democrat votes they need. I get that. But the last government shutdown we had, last I remember, is back in 2019. We didn't have one under the Joe Biden administration. I could also tell you that this is not, they're putting it all on Chuck Schumer, the right, MAGA. They're putting it all on Chuck Schumer. This is all his fault.
He's the leader.
Yeah, I understand that, but who's in charge of the House? Who's in charge of the Senate right now?
Should they vote to get rid of the filibuster? I think so. I think just crush the filibuster and then Democrats have no argument. I actually agree with Democrats on this one. They're blaming the Republicans for the shutdown, and the Republicans are countering, saying, well, it's because we need at least 60 votes for cloture. And I'm just like, or you get rid of the filibuster, and then you make sure Democrats never win another election.
I mean, are Republicans working hard? How many weeks were they on vacation? How many times did Mike Johnson say stay on vacation? Yeah, exactly.
That's the August.
Why can't they sit down and negotiate?
Recess.
Why is Hakeem Jeffries lying when he says Mike Johnson has not called him up to sit down and try to talk and negotiate? Is Hakeem Jeffries lying?
What's the negotiation? Like,
that's the Republicans' responsibility. They have the House and the Senate. It's their job to try to negotiate with Democrats. It's their responsibility.
This is a 2-to-tango situation. And
so why won't they sit down, Tim?
Because they don't need to.
They don't need to?
Indeed.
Look at all the people that aren't getting paid right now.
And Democrats could be like, fine, well, we won't give health care to illegal immigrants, and we'll give you the 5 votes.
You don't think that in Washington, D.C. right now, people don't need to negotiate and sit down and come to terms and get somewhere in the middle?
Well, this is how government shutdowns...
No, you're right. They could just abolish the filibuster and reopen government in seconds.
I understand that, but you're saying that you don't think that Mike Johnson should be reaching out to Democrats when Democrats are reaching out to him and say, okay, listen, we might not get anywhere, but let's at least try.
Well, there's multiple factors here. First, I would say, I already agreed, Republicans could shut this down in 2 seconds by ending the filibuster and the nuclear option. And everyone says, but Democrats will get back in power. Oh, yeah, fucking right. If Democrats get back in power, it's the least of their worries that they might ram stuff through the Senate. So maybe they should just, in the Senate, say, okay, filibuster's gone, government's open. The other issue is Republicans want the government shut down. And I don't care too much about the government shutdown. They want the government shut down because it's giving them pretext to start firing tons of people, which is exactly what Trump wanted to do.
You don't care about brave men and women in uniform not getting paid?
They're getting paid.
They got paid.
Okay, but for a little while they weren't getting paid. You don't care about...
No, they never missed a paycheck.
People at the airport, TSA agents, and people all over the country that are not getting their paychecks. You don't care about that?
I don't.
There's been shutdowns.
What's your argument?
I would be
What's your
okay
argument?
with that.
Hold on. What's your argument?
What's my argument?
You're a bootlicking fascist who likes government authority and federal agents?
Absolutely not.
Fire them all.
No, I'm actually a human being, and I feel like when people wake up and they go to work, they probably should get paid for it, Tim.
Well, you can quit.
Well, you can quit?
Yeah, see, I'm on the very libertarian spectrum of I don't think government should be as bloated as big as it is. And I actually voted for Trump because he said he was going to fire tons of people. So I'm fine with doing it slowly. But if Democrats are like, we want to give ACA benefits to non-citizens, so we won't reopen the government, and then Trump is like, I'm going to fire people.
Let's backtrack a little bit. Let's backtrack a little bit, Tim, for a moment. Hold on a second. Families and fathers and mothers that are working in all different types of different positions in government jobs, they rely on that paycheck, and they're not getting a paycheck because of a government shutdown, regardless of whether you blame the right or the left.
Should drop their illegal immigrant stuff.
And your response to them would be, I don't care, quit your job?
Well, one of the responses I could say is stop relying on big daddy government to take care of you. My first statement is I'm sorry the Democrats did this to you. Okay, maybe if they didn't want to give ACA benefits to illegal immigrants, the government would be open. Now, Republicans could, as I already mentioned, end the filibuster right now and reopen government, but they don't want to because Trump wants to fire a ton of people. So I'm sitting back being like, well, it's what is it called? The Xanatos Gambit. I was reading about this the other day, where no matter the outcome, your side benefits. Trump's attitude is if Democrats want to give illegal immigrants health care under ACA and keep the government shut down. They won't give us the 5. I think they need, 6 votes?
6, I believe, yeah.
6 votes. And he's like, okay, then the government's shut down. Fine. I'm going to start firing people. Okay. Win-win.
All right.
Well, it's also important who's being fired, right? Because we can talk about police officers, civil servants, et cetera, which is the majority of government workers. But the people that he's really targeting are the 500,000 federal bureaucrats, and they're getting huge payout packages, which is fine. We could pay them 4 times their salaries to quit, and it would still be worth it because they're the ones that are managing the economy without accountability and destroying innovation and costing us unimaginable amount of.
It's just wild to be like. So I'll step back and give you my assessment. The TSA is bad. I've met a lot of TSA agents when I travel, and they're fans, and I respect that. But the agency itself, I think, is a bad expansion of government, and we complained about it when it happened. But the problem is, the government creates something, and then liberals defend it, or independents, or whatever your argument is, right? So amnesty. We get amnesty in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, and once again, it's always gonna be amnesty. At a certain point, you got to be like, guys, we're not doing it a 4th time. It's not going to happen. No amnesty. Everybody's got to go. You're a criminal alien. You got to get out. And then the same thing with government agents and government shutdowns. It's like we've expanded the executive branch. We've expanded federal authority. We've expanded federal law enforcement over and over and over again. And instead of being like, maybe at some point we need to stop and say we're spending too much and expanding government too much, we get the liberal side, which is, no, just this time we need amnesty. Whatever it may be, pay all of them now. Defending the TSA, the liberals were angry about the TSA when H.W. Bush was creating all this stuff.
Yeah, it's the only time I've ever been sexually abused multiple times. Which is actually a problem.
And I understand this because I've long talked about the problems in a post-capitalist society where, I met a homeless guy a long time ago in Chicago, old black guy, and I had some pizza left over from a restaurant. I asked him if he wanted it, if he was hungry. He said he was. I said, here you go, brother. And then I was like, can I ask you a question? Just curious how you ended up homeless. And he said, well, I'll give you the simple version. He worked at the post office for 20 some odd years, never really a high ranking guy or anything. Eventually they said they were going to be shutting down, his post office was going under restructuring or whatever. And so he didn't have a backup plan. He couldn't afford a retirement. So the first thing he does, he starts collecting some benefits, but then it's not enough to pay his rent and pay for food. He chooses between buying food or paying rent. He chooses buying food. Then he's late on rent. He pays what he can. Eventually he gets evicted, and that's it. And he said, man, let me tell you, he's like, my friends are dead. My family's long dead. I don't got anybody else, and eventually got nowhere to go. And I said, well, that's messed up. This guy didn't do anything wrong. How does he end up in a situation like this? I can respect the individual and these circumstances, but we also have to understand that we are building a system that is growing and growing and growing. And I'll put it like this, because I've experienced this as a business owner. When we try to look at costs, why are we spending so much money? You know what we find? There is never one thing you're spending too much money on. And so we're like, what are we doing over here with this skateboard stuff? Are we spending too much? Like, honestly, we're not really spending that much money at all. Okay, well then what about some of these shows over here? Really? It's a couple of grand. And I'm like, it's a snowflake and an avalanche. No one is ever going to be happy when you have to do the cuts, because it's going to affect so many individuals, and an individual's worth is substantially more important than the amount of money you take by cutting the program. But when you are cutting down costs, sometimes you have no choice, and individuals are going to get negatively
impacted. Let's be fiscally responsible by gold plating the White House. Is that fiscally
Who's paying for it?
No, I'm not talking about the ballroom. I'm talking about gold plating the Oval Office.
And who's paying for it?
Yeah, well,
I think
you want to talk about being fiscally responsible, the guy who you support got us $8.2 trillion in debt his first go.
Well, that's
come on, bro. We're not going to talk about one president's debt
equation, which is the growth, right? This is the whole growth thing, because this is what libertarians complain about all the time: is that Trump's not cutting spending. Spending is largely determined by Congress, which makes it challenging anyways. But if you can cut the cost of medicine in half through deregulation or most favored nation negotiation, then you cut 13% of the federal budget.
1,500% drug prices. Yeah, he's definitely doing a great job there. Can I just go to the drugstore right now and get a $5,000 check? How do you support a guy that talks like that?
I think one of my issues is just that we've built a society that continually expects things from others. It's like I consider myself to be in favor of what I call universal basic health care. Meaning actually assessing the situation. We have seen circumstances where like a kid got the flu and died. And you're like, well, how does that happen in the 21st century? I mean, come on. It shouldn't happen. Or someone has a broken bone. It doesn't heal properly. I'm like, these are simple things that, it's not expensive to fix.
We should have access to that. I agree.
However, the left isn't arguing for that. They're arguing for general universal health care, which would include cancer treatments and extremely rare. And I'll give you a specific example of where the limits are met. There was a kid who had a genetic disorder for which there is a treatment. The treatment is extremely rare and hard to produce and costs about $1 million. This, I believe, was in Georgia. And the family argued that the state should pay the $1 million to give the kid his gene therapy to cure this disease. And the state argued, we cannot do this for literally everyone. And if you were to win this argument in court, how will the state fund $1 million gene therapy for everyone suffering from this illness? So that's why universal health care
Can I ask
is
you a
not
question?
possible.
I want to ask you a question, though. You support Donald Trump, obviously, and I'm curious, what is Donald Trump's health care plan? For 9 years, we've heard a replacement plan is coming to Obamacare. We've heard the bitching and complaining.
Yeah.
I mean, where is the replacement plan? He's had 9 years. Is that a serious policy person?
Oh, it's fantastic. Obamacare is great. I'm happy.
They've fired, 30% of the
I'm not
agents?
asking
All this stuff that we're going through with healthcare and
Tim, that wasn't my question. I'm not asking you what your opinions are on Obamacare. What I'm asking you for is what is Donald Trump's replacement plan? Where is it?
His plan is to deregulate.
who cares?
What do you mean? Who cares?
You don't like
guys have
Obamacare?
The question isn't about Obamacare.
Do you like Obamacare? Yes or no?
I think it could make some improvements.
But generally good?
I think it's okay. Average.
Okay, so then why would I want a replacement plan?
Because Donald Trump is the guy who you support has been bitching about it for 9 years.
So fucking what?
So fucking what? When somebody complains about something and you're the president of the United States and you call yourself a policymaker,
Actually,
you're
it's
supposed to come up with a replacement plan.
one of the reasons I support Trump is that
He doesn't have one. He
That's
doesn't
why
have a
I
replacement
support him,
plan.
actually. That's why I support him.
So you support a guy because for 9 years he complains about a policy, and in 9 years the imbecile doesn't come up with a replacement plan,
Man,
and that's why you support
real
him?
smoked about this.
Well, you're saying you don't care.
You're acting like I want to replace Obamacare.
It's not about you. It's about the guy who
So
you support.
you just said you support a guy who's complained but done nothing. I'm like, that's why I support him.
He lied. He said, I'm going to come up with a replacement plan in 2 weeks.
Yep.
It'll come up in 2 weeks. It'll come up in 2 months. You don't care?
No, I like Obamacare. It's great.
So Trump could just lie about anything and you don't care. He could lie about the 2020
That's a
election.
straw
You
man.
don't care. You don't think that's important for the president of the United
Straw
States
man.
who complains about
I actually don't like Obamacare, but my point is,
Yeah.
Whether Donald Trump replaces or doesn't replace it, the healthcare system is broken, and it's not Trump's fault that it's broken.
So come up with a replacement plan.
He's focusing
Maybe he
on the
can't. Maybe
things
it's
that
hard.
would actually fix the healthcare
And don't say you're
system.
gonna. Then don't say you're
Because
gonna come up with one.
he's
But
trying
if
to,
you
and it's
tinker
difficult.
around
9 years?
insurance,
Yes.
Trying to.
you're not going
Obama
to solve
didn't do
the
it.
problem.
9 years.
If you just tinker around insurance, you're not going to solve the problem. You need to go at the regulation, the farmer control of the industry, the AMA monopoly on standards, the licensing restrictions. And there's many countries where it's not even legal to take stem cells here,
Right.
And it's very,
is
very
ridiculous.
cheap.
If
you're
they're
looking
yours,
at just
it
the
is.
tech,
George W. Bush.
If they're,
started
no,
that.
if they're your stem cells, it is
I
legal.
don't want my stem cells. I want umbilical cord stem cells. My stem cells are useless at this point. Okay.
That's not.
No,
Technically,
it's not technically
it's
true.
just so the issue
There's
is
still benefits.
They can extract and then culture your stem cells, but they are nowhere near as effective as umbilical stem cells, and you have to get those in.
I think
And a lot of it is a technology and knowledge question, right?
Well-
If you just want to, the knowledge that it requires to make the machines, operate the machines, and do various tests, you could bring a full medical checkup down to like $100 price point. It's just illegal. And we're talking about hospitals being flooded. What about the zoning around hospitals?
I think there's a cure for diabetes right now. I think there's probably a cure for cancer. Okay, I agree with you that stem cell research. I believe that there's so much money involved in
a
curing
cure
these
for
diseases.
diabetes.
I think there probably is. I think that they've done it in monkeys already, recreating a pancreas that can secrete insulin. But why, Tim? Why do we not have the cure out there? Because there's so much money.
Curing the disease ends the business.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's my point. So
Right.
I agree with you guys on that.
That's my point.
That's
is
the golden goose, right?
the problem of
right,
healthcare
right.
is not a Trump-centric problem.
Okay.
And Trump's failure to figure out how to solve it is not. It's like, well, I wish he could, I guess.
It's also
bitch
like
about a problem for 9 years, but don't come up with any solution.
Well,
But it's also
he
not what
already
he
fired
ran on.
30%
What is your
of the
argument?
HHS staff.
My argument
Those are the
is-
bureaucrats making these
My
rules.
argument is you support a man
Who can't
for
figure
9
out healthcare? Indeed.
but has been complaining about it for 9 years.
I've
It's
been
not a-
complaining about it for
it's
9 years,
not
and I
like-
can't solve it either.
You're not the president.
Solve it right now. Tell me. Come
I'm
on.
not the president either. You're comparing
bro,
me to Donald
this
Trump.
is not a real argument. This is
not a
just-
real argument.
It's certainly not a real
So
argument.
complain about something as the president
Yes,
for 9 years, but don't have any
indeed.
solutions. And you
Of
don't think that's a
course.
real argument.
Name every single president ever who complained about something and didn't solve the
Did
problem.
Obama come up with Obamacare? Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know.
He worked with Congress on it. They
He
negotiated.
did. Why can't Donald Trump do that?
Well,
I thought
so-
he was the brilliant negotiator.
Did Obamacare work?
Again, that's
Can't do anything
That's-
with Congress.
Oh, that one doesn't count, though.
never said it doesn't. count.
Obamacare fucked everything up.
Okay, so come up with a replacement that won't fuck everything up.
I'm not the president.
No, you're right, but you support the guy who can't come up with it.
Neither could Obama.
Obama had. His
Oh,
own
actually, this is a
solution.
really great. I'll make the argument. Obama fucked it up, and Trump saying, "I better not
don't
touch
disagree.
that."
I disagree with that. I don't think Obama "quote unquote" fucked it up. I don't
Oh, he
think-
certainly fucked it up
I
for
don't-
me and my family.
Okay, you have a right to your opinion.
And I'm
okay?
pissed about it.
You
And
have
you know what? Trump saying I'm not going to touch it. I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's a good thing.
So let's give tax breaks to the top 1%. That's a good solution.
That's not an argument.
No, it's not an argument. Let's.
You literally just changed the subject.
No, I'm
because
on
you're
the
not
same
making
He's
sense.
done it like 5 times.
That's
already.
all he keeps doing. It's non sequiturs.
He brought up the ballroom out of nowhere.
So he's
You
bad
don't-
about
you don't-
DHS.
We're talking about healthcare.
Uh-huh.
The guy who you support for 9 years have not come up with any solutions.
What
to
are you?
fix
This
our
doesn't
healthcare.
mean anything. You're saying nothing.
No, I'm saying
We
everything.
just agreed a
The guy-
solution is the bureaucracy. So what could Trump do more on that angle? You don't need Congress. You can just focus on the bureaucracy. What would you suggest that he do to eliminate certain regulations or change certain regulations?
What would I suggest that the president does? I'm okay with Obamacare. You're trying to paint me out as, Obamacare is horrible. It's terrible. I think it saved millions of American lives. I disagree
Why?
with you. For a lot of different reasons.
Yeah,
First of
how?
all, there are people that did not have access to health care that have access to it now. There's a lot of people that are on Medicaid right now that would never have access to it if not for Obamacare.
So let me ask you,
the
how many people is that?
How many people what?
How many people is that?
How many people that he's helped? It's impossible to come up with an exact number.
How many people did he hurt?
Again, impossible to come up with
So
an
we'd
exact
actually,
number.
you actually don't know if it's good or bad.
I know it's helped me. I know it's helped my family.
Okay, so
I know
let's
it's
just slow down.
Yeah.
You don't know the number of people it may have helped or it may have hurt.
So why is it bad? How many people have it hurt? Tell me.
So I just said it hurt me.
Okay.
And
it helped
and-
me.
Exactly. So if the predicate of the argument is
Yeah. Hurt
you
some
were-
people, help some people.
and we don't know the exact numbers, but you benefited from it, and I was hurt by it,
Sure.
then we'd actually don't have a strong position on Obamacare, which was kind of my point. Trump complaining about it but doing nothing, I'm kind of like, it's kind of a moot point to me because healthcare has been screwed up forever, continues to be screwed up.
So is
You
our
don't-
border.
you
Our
don't-
border's
you-
been screwed up forever too. Why don't you have the same approach to the border? We're saying-
because
Yeah.
he shut down the illegal immigration?
Well, I'm just saying for decades.
Because it changed?
For decades, we've heard the argument, but yet for decades,
What
we've had
argument?
undocumented immigrants coming into this country, whether it be George W. Bush or Barack Obama or Bill Clinton. We've heard from decades and decades and decades. Now, we'll see how this plays out. Yeah, sure, there's not a lot of undocumented immigrants.
Now
that are
Trump's doing a
coming into
lot
this
about
country.
it.
Well, he's doing a lot about it. I think he's going
Great.
about it the wrong way. But at the same time, we could make
What
arguments.
should he do?
Well, do what they said they were going to do, and let's get the violent criminals
That's
out of this
false.
country first.
That is false.
At the RNC, they had
False.
signs that said mass deportations now. Mass.
Yeah, so this is another fake argument from the left.
What do you mean? Donald Trump said that.
The Trump
Tom Homan said it.
administration said that they were going to deport all of them.
Tom Homan said their top priority multiple times
Correct.
was going after
Indeed, it is.
Okay, so
and
it's
what's your
Why
argument
is
that it's not?
false? Because over 60% of the people that are being deported,
60% sounds like they're focused, doesn't it?
6 out of 10 have never committed a violent crime in their life.
You're
Right,
saying
so
6 out of 10 didn't.
what percentage of
Violent
illegal immigrants are violent criminals?
What do you think prioritization means? Do you think it means doing all of them first and then the other
Sure.
ones
Here's,
after?
here's my
or-
idea of what prioritization wouldn't be, what they're doing right now, which is going outside of courtrooms, people that are seeking asylum and tackling them and arresting them. That's not, to me, those aren't the people that we should be putting as a priority or sitting outside of Home
Okay,
Depot.
we got to
That
slow
doesn't
down
mean they're
because
using more
once again,
resources there.
so this is what I always find with people who are anti-Trump is you're making a lot of arguments that are not related to each other. You can
talking about immigration.
let's try this. I have prioritized the field mouse problem in this building, and I have told all of the staff here my priority is the field mice. But one day Tate walks in and I caught a cricket, and he goes, "What the fuck are you doing to the crickets? Why the fuck won't you stop the field mice?" And I'm like, "Bro, we got the field mouse traps everywhere. You're just looking at the one instance where I've caught a cricket. Why are you mad at me?"
There's also more crickets.
We're talking about healthcare. We're talking about immigration. What has Donald Trump in the last 9 years that has helped us when it comes to our healthcare?
You have no examples to prove they are not prioritizing violent criminals.
I just gave you the statistic.
No, you're telling me that they've gotten people who are not violent criminals, who perhaps are easier to apprehend.
No, they haven't gotten people, the majority of people that they have apprehended.
Because they're easier to apprehend. But does that mean they're not focused or prioritizing criminals? You're not making an argument.
So getting ICE agents to show up outside of courtrooms
is not a question of priority. It's a question of you saw a thing happen.
They said their priority. This is Tom Homan's own words.
Okay, how many agents are focused on narco gangs, cartels, etc.?
I don't have the numbers.
Exactly. You're not making an argument.
More people have been deported
that
are
not related to what you're saying.
I figure the prioritization
I think you lack the cognitive ability to connect the dots.
No, I think I do, and I think this comes down to...
Try this again. A priority doesn't mean the outcome is guaranteed.
I understand that.
So pointing out a bunch of nonviolent criminal aliens were arrested doesn't mean they're not prioritizing violent criminal aliens.
Okay, well, it doesn't appear to me that they are. And if you
that's,
think that
again,
they are,
that's an opinion and not an argument.
Well, if you think that they are, then you're entitled to your opinion. But I don't believe that they are. When you're tackling people and nonviolent criminals outside of courthouses, in front of Home Depot, or teachers, I've seen the videos.
Not a question of priority.
You don't even need to track anybody for that. They're showing up to the courthouse and telling you who they are. So,
and that's not a question of priority.
To track the criminals.
These things you're pointing out are two different situations.
You pointed out that 40% of those deported are violent criminals. That's outsized from the percentage of legal immigrants that are here that are actually violent criminals. So Trump is actually punching above his weight when it comes to deporting violent criminals.
I want violent criminals out of this country.
I want all criminals.
Clear on that.
So he's doing really well.
Hold on a second. So you want accountability for criminals. Is that right, Tim?
Yes.
Okay. Then why would you support a 34-count felon?
He's not a felon.
This is the craziest whataboutism I've ever seen.
What was he charged with?
Not whataboutism.
What's the criminal charge?
Is he a 34-count felon, convicted felon? Yes or no?
No.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not.
He wasn't sentenced, but he was convicted by a jury. Was he not?
It's not.
Was he found guilty or not guilty of 34 counts?
What were the charges?
I'm asking you a question.
The answer is no.
Why do you answer the question? Maybe you're the one with the cognitive difficulties.
The answer is no. The answer is no. The answer is no again, no again, no again. Now tell me what he was charged with.
So wait, the jury did not find Donald Trump guilty?
Correct, yes.
I mean, the earth isn't flat, Tim.
What was he charged with?
What? Wait, you just said a jury did not find him guilty.
Indeed, that's correct.
Where are you getting that from?
Because Trump was never actually charged with any real crimes.
Okay, so you're saying...
So hold on. Is your argument, did a group of people come together
whether you agree or not is not the question, okay?
Well, so we're having a conversation on the logic and the facts of the matter. And the facts of the matter is Trump was not legitimately charged with any crime. So he can't be found guilty.
Opinion? That's your opinion.
It's a fact.
Okay, it's a fact.
It is indeed a fact.
So a jury found him guilty.
Of what?
You're wrong.
Of what?
Okay.
Of what?
You say 34-count felon.
Of what?
Okay, well, did he not... I'm answering it. I'm answering it. Did he not make up and falsify business records?
He did not.
He did not. Okay.
That wasn't the case. Did you watch? Did you check?
I did.
So who actually?
So he didn't break the law.
Who was accused of it?
He didn't break the law.
He did not. Well,
Okay.
Perhaps.
So
maybe,
in your opinion, perhaps
maybe.
Okay,
No. Okay, stop. I'm going to mute you if you try and play that stupid stuff because you interrupt me. While I'm making the point that perhaps maybe it was a misdemeanor falsification of business records from his CFO. Perhaps, maybe. Don't cut me off when I say perhaps maybe to change the context of what I'm saying. Donald Trump was accused of misdemeanor falsification of business records by instructing a lower staffer we don't know he actually instructed. All because of Cohen making a claim about paying Stormy Daniels. Mm-hmm. This cannot be upgraded to a felony because it's what's called requiring an underlying crime, which never in the history of the United States has been done before. Donald Trump, in this charge, was convicted falsely.
In your opinion?
It's not an opinion. It is a fact.
So the judge got it wrong.
Indeed.
Our courts got it wrong.
Absolutely.
But you got it right.
What was the underlying crime?
The problem I have with
Answer the fucking question.
What was the underlying crime? 34 counts.
Of what?
Okay. Falsifying business records was
underlying
one
crime.
Of them.
Name it.
I don't have it right in front of me.
There isn't one.
Okay. But so you're saying that the judge got it wrong, the jury got it wrong, he had the right to defend himself.
For the love of all that is holy, this is the problem with this country.
They all got it wrong.
What is the underlying crime?
He was convicted in a court of law, Tim.
What? Oh my God. What is the underlying crime?
What is the underlying crime?
Okay, let's stop.
I think Tim wants you to point it out.
Wait.
Yeah, go ahead.
What was he charged with? Just give me the sentence. Give me the single phrase.
What I know is that he was a 34-count felon convicted.
Oh my God!
Law. That's what I know.
What was he charged with?
I don't have the case. I don't have the case right in front of me.
You don't know.
I don't have the case right in
You
front
are
of me.
in a cult. You
I'm in
are
a
a
cult?
cultist.
How am I a
Yes.
cultist?
You don't know what you're talking about, and you're
don't know what I'm
zealously
talking
arguing
about.
for it.
I don't know what I'm talking about. You're the one who just looked
Okay.
me in the eye and told me that a jury did not find him guilty. Now you can
Stop.
you
Let's
can
try this
disagree
again.
with it.
What was he charged with?
Again,
You don't know? Do you know or do you not know?
he falsified business records. Okay.
What's the charge?
I don't have the charges.
You
right
don't
in front of
know,
me.
do you?
I don't.
Maybe you should then
have
say,
the
I
charges right
don't
in front of
know.
me.
Maybe. How about you say this? I don't know.
You can tell me what
You
the
say, I don't
charges
know?
are, but he was still convicted in a court of law.
Do you wanna say,
can
I don't know?
Disagree with it.
He
I don't
was-
have it right in front of me. That doesn't mean that I'm wrong with what I'm saying.
It
He was still
certainly
convicted.
does because you don't know what you're talking
So
about.
he wasn't found guilty in a court of law.
He was not found guilty in a court of
That's
law.
the only point I was making.
Of a criminal action for which falsification was an aggravated factor. You don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
It is one of the most controversial cases in U.S. history where for the first time an aggravated charge was placed without the government proving an underlying case. They upgraded misdemeanors, which require an underlying crime, but they never proved a crime
So let me ask you a
actually
question.
happened.
Then why couldn't his attorneys prove that in a court of law?
They did! Bro, this is why it's under appeal and they have not issued a sentence yet.
So in our country,
You don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, here's what I do.
You can't even name the charges. You don't know who is who.
Just because I can't name the charges doesn't mean he wasn't convicted in a court
Who
of law.
falsified the records?
Well, he didn't falsify the records per se, but people that were doing it, that were
Okay,
behind
all right,
it
let's
were.
slow down. Let's slow down and calm down. You don't know the facts of the case.
Do you know all the facts in the case?
I know a
you
good
have more,
plenty of-
you have more evidence than the jury. What the jury heard?
I have a good plenty of more evidence than you to found my arguments.
Okay, but did you have the evidence that the jury had?
Indeed, it was all released.
Oh, you had all the evidence that the jury saw.
So we're not going to speak in absolutes. The American public was
asking you.
privy to the information and the jury testimony, and juries gave.
All right, so he's innocent. He didn't do anything wrong. The left went after him. It was George Soros.
Make a real argument.
Okay, sure. You have a 6-year-old daughter, right? Which, by the way, congratulations.
don't.
Oh, I thought you had a daughter. I
do, but she's not 6.
Well, by the way, congratulations on that.
I appreciate it.
So
Now we're nice again.
I like good-spirited debates. I like this stuff. So, Tim, if your daughter was 12 or I don't know how old she is, but if she was 12 or 13 years old and she was in a pageant and a creepy man went in there without her permission and talked about it sexually on the Howard Stern show, which he did.
Okay, wait, hold on.
Yep.
Were we
I don't know what's funny about that.
Were we just
Well, it's just
talking?
like
we're just talking about
Well,
the court case.
we're talking
with
about the
Trump.
moral aspect of Donald Trump now because we've talked about morals.
Oh, he's a pig.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have no.
He's got serious decorum problems and attitude problems.
Forget about
I
the.
tell you
He
what.
did stop
I
World War
appreciate
III,
that.
though, so
Forget
that's-
about the legal argument for a moment, okay? Forget about the legalities of Donald Trump. I'm just asking.
So he's not a felon.
Why should we forget about that?
Well, because I'm asking about morals now. I'm talking about the moral aspect of why I don't support him, okay? And I'm trying to have a conversation with you about morals. Are you comfortable? You're comfortable with the leader of the free world being a liable sexual abuser who's had dozens of women that have accused him of rape or sexual assault, including his ex-wife in
that's
court
all bad.
documents?
That's all bad.
It's all really. It's kind of really bad, isn't it?
You know what? I have a trouble with the United States of America, especially
Yeah.
because Barack Obama murdered a 16-year-old American citizen by bombing a civilian restaurant in Yemen. Whataboutism? This is
I asked you a question about Donald Trump.
and I agreed with you.
So why would you support somebody like that? You're okay with
for the
that?
same reason that people probably support Obama murdering children. The
What was
issue
it about
is,
Kamala? Name me one thing that Kamala Harris has done in her life.
Let's slow down
that's
and
that bad.
say the issue at hand is we always call this the lesser of two evils. And we could take a look at Donald Trump being slovenly and perverted and whatever you want to call him. And these are bad things. And I'm like, wow, this is why I didn't vote for him in 2016. And then you can take a look at what else you're up against. And you've got Joe Biden, warmongering crony who sold out this country to his brother for Iraqi contracts and 10% of the big guy, and the list goes on. You can take a look at the extension of the Obama administration where Obama killed tons of children. He has the record for most children murdered by a Nobel Peace Prize holder. And most notably was the extrajudicial assassinations of Anwar al-Awlaki and Abdurrahman al-Awlaki. Now, you can make the arguments about Anwar al-Awlaki being a jihadi, but he was an American and we have due process. But then you get Abdurrahman al-Awlaki, who was a 16-year-old American citizen who was at a civilian restaurant in Yemen, and Obama blew him up. And when Obama was asked about it, he said, oops. Oops. And so they come to me and say, Trump's a pig. And I'm like, yeah, you got that right.
So first of all,
and then I've got to choose who I'm voting for on this one. And I'm going to tell you, you know what? They all suck.
Well, Trump didn't run against Barack Obama, and I didn't vote for Barack
but
Obama.
Biden,
I'm not here to defend Barack Obama.
No, I'm talking
asking
about
Joe
Donald
Trump because you support Donald Trump.
Indeed. And
you're
I talk
okay
about
with supporting a pig who probably sexually abused a lot of people, who was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. He was best friends.
Now you're making things up.
Found liable in a court of law for sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll. His own wife.
Play this game?
His own wife.
You don't want to play
a game.
You don't know. You don't know the facts of the case.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the 24 or 25 other women.
Well, no, let's do the E. Jean Carroll thing.
Okay. So Barack Obama.
Tell me what happened.
So hold on. Barack Obama's. I will.
No. You brought it up.
Barack Obama is a murderer, and yet he was never convicted. It never was shown in a court of law. Nothing ever proven. But you can make blatant statements, Tim.
I'm not retarded.
I'm not retarded either. Okay. I'm a pretty smart guy.
When a court of law says a thing is true, that doesn't mean it's true.
Gotcha. So unproven in a court of law, but Barack Obama's a murderer, and you're totally okay saying that. But Donald Trump never sexually abused anybody, even though liably found guilty in a court of law.
Let's slow down a minute. See, I'm
just asking you.
This is the issue with liberals. You don't know.
I'm not a liberal. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm a registered independent. You just called me a liberal. Let's be factually accurate, Tim.
The left.
Okay, I'm not the left.
You don't know.
I didn't vote for Obama. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton.
You are left.
Okay, well, you can say that, and I can call you a hard MAGA right, but it doesn't mean that you're right.
That too. But there's clearly distinct factions in the culture war, and there's a left and a right, which defines the overall.
I don't like sexual abusers. I would never vote for somebody like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Well, you did.
No, I didn't.
Okay. So Donald Trump never sexually abused anybody.
Tell me
the 25 women lied. His own ex-wife in court documents in a deposition. She under oath. His ex-wife said that he raped her.
You know your issue.
He went into teenage girls' locker rooms without their permission.
Bad things. Yeah, bad things.
Oh, that's just bad.
Those are real bad. Those are real bad.
Locking the keys in my car is a bad thing. That's despicable.
So tell me the case.
You have a daughter. Well, hold on a second. I just talked about going into teenage girls' locker rooms. No, you don't know what you're talking about.
I don't? You don't.
Donald Trump bragged about it on the Howard Stern show. Which case? E. Jean Carroll?
E. Jean Carroll.
So you want to go through the case.
You said proven in a court case. I said, tell me about it.
The jury found him liable.
You can't.
The jury found him liable.
You can't.
The jury did. They found him liable.
Okay, I'm gonna try this one more time. If you keep making non sequiturs,
it's not a non sequitur.
It is, because I asked you a question. You've ignored it.
I haven't ignored it.
What was the case?
So here's what I know about the case. Okay, it's very simple.
Yeah.
Unlike Barack Obama, which you had mentioned, he's a murderer. You don't want to talk about the fact that that's never been proven in a court of law. But what
does that have to do with what I asked you? Tell me about the E. Jean Carroll case.
Because a jury found him liable for sexual abuse. I don't have to know everything about the case.
No, you just believe what you're told.
To you. No, I believe in our justice system.
Let's do this.
I believe in our justice system.
Here's how I operate. I will hear a claim and I will fact check it.
Sure.
And try and dig through the facts to see if there's merit. You will believe what you're told.
So everything on the right when it comes to Donald Trump, there's no merit to it, even though he's a convicted 34-count felon. But those were made up. Right, sure. And then
you don't even know the crime.
I don't have to know the crime to know that a jury found him guilty in a court of law. You can disagree with the outcome.
You do.
I disagree with the
Nelson Mandela was a criminal too. He got locked up.
Hey, sometimes the justice system gets it wrong. I think we could agree on that.
So if you
not my type is a better defense than the glove doesn't fit, I think.
I think the question, you know what? We can just pause right here and say to everybody who's listening, I think my point is I can tell you the facts of these cases and why I have doubts, and you don't know anything about them.
So here's a fact. Donald Trump is a 34-count felon. You can disagree with it, but you can say incorrect till the cows come home. He wasn't sentenced, but he was convicted on 34 felony counts. Now, you can disagree with that. Okay, you can disagree
Name the crime.
That's fine.
Name the crime.
You don't have to name the crime.
Yes, you do.
He's a 34-count felon.
You have to name the crime.
Okay, well, listen.
So, again, I will say it to the audience. He doesn't even know what the charge was. He doesn't know who was accused of falsifying what.
I named you a few. I don't have all 34 charges in front of me, but it doesn't, just because I can't name the charges.
Wouldn't it be prudent of you to actually investigate these things before parroting them to a large audience?
I'm not parroting them. All I'm simply saying.
You can't even explain what your position is.
Just because,
what did Trump? Okay, let me try this. Let's slow down. What do you think Trump did wrong in that case?
You're talking about E. Jean Carroll, or are you talking about
no the business records case? What did he do wrong?
Well, falsifying business records was what he was charged with.
No, what specifically did he do wrong?
What specifically?
What do you take
falsifying
issue
records? With? Falsifying records.
Which records? I'm asking you the specifics of what did you find that he did wrong.
Here's my point.
You don't have an answer for it?
I'm going to answer it for you.
Are you going to give me a specific example, or are you going to change the subject again?
I'm not changing the subject. We're talking about this.
So what did Trump do wrong? Say Trump did thing. Tell me.
Okay. Here's the answer that I'm going to give you. I don't know all the ins and outs of this case.
Well, then why are we talking?
Here's what I do know. Regardless of what your opinions are on the case, and what you might think are valid that he didn't do anything wrong, what you might think are valid that he never sexually abused a woman. Here's the bottom line, whether you like it or not. A jury found him guilty on 34 counts that you obviously disagree with. Whether I know the ins and outs of the case is irrelevant.
Yep.
The fact of the matter is that he is a 34-count felon. The fact of the matter is that he's a liable sexual abuser. Liable.
Actually, so this is actually legally distinct. He
wasn't sentenced. I understand.
Therefore, he's not a felon.
I understand that.
There has to be the final.
I understand.
Right, so he's not a felon.
I've said that multiple times.
So we agree he's not a felon.
Okay. The reason why he wasn't sentenced is because he won the presidency.
Well, it's under appeal, actually, and it's been over a year since the appellate court was prepared to issue their ruling.
I'll tell you what.
Done it.
If he wins his appeal, I will come on this show and I will say, Tim, I was wrong.
Well, no,
right.
Hold on. We agree, though. He's not yet a felon until he's sentenced.
He wasn't sentenced. I've said that multiple times. A jury convicted him on 34 felony counts.
Of what?
Again, there you go back again, trying to quiz me on what the.
Okay, here's my point.
That's the only point I'm trying to make.
I don't know why you're here.
I don't know what you mean.
We're not debating.
Okay, well,
a debate's like this. Donald Trump did a backflip, and here's why it was wrong. Well, actually, backflips have been long protected. I'm saying Donald Trump was accused of these specific things, and you say, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, then we're not having a debate.
No.
You're just saying I read in the news Trump was convicted, and I say, okay.
Okay, well.
It's important to drill down because then you can compare it to other similar situations and whether people have been charged by that. And then that's the way that you can suss out whether it was lawfare or something unusual.
Indeed, but even outside of that, it's that when an individual is convicted of a crime, it is prudent of a society to analyze whether or not this is a legitimate use of the judiciary, of our legal system.
So you don't like people that accuse other people of things.
And the point I'm making is, I don't believe law dictates morality. I don't believe just because something is legal, it is correct. And I don't blindly trust when an authority figure says, trust me, this person's bad. That's why I oppose the death penalty, because there's going to be some authority figure says, you don't need the facts of the case, kill this man. I'm going to say no. So in the issue of Donald Trump in New York, he was not actually legitimately charged under any crime, and it's unprecedented in U.S. history. Trump was charged under 34 counts of misdemeanor, falsification of business records with no underlying crime. They then said, okay, I guess, upgrade it to a felony. Everybody said, well, hold on a minute. This is why it's currently in appeal, because Trump was never actually charged with the underlying crime required for an aggravated charge. It's never happened before.
So let's just say you're 100% right and I'm 100% wrong. Let's just assume that for a moment. I'm not quite sure, but let's just assume that for a moment. I was talking also about the moralities of the case, and you were asking me about E. Jean Carroll. And while I don't want to go into the details of that case, I wasn't there.
You don't know either.
Okay, but he was.
I do.
Again, it goes back to what I said earlier.
What was he accused of doing?
He was found liable for sexual.
What does that mean?
The judge characterized it as rape, as penetrating her with his fingers. A jury found that he was liable. Now, I wasn't there. You weren't there. But here's what I do know.
What year did it take place?
I don't recall. It was many years ago. But
30 years ago.
But the point is, he has a track record with how he has treated women from a moral standpoint.
How was it? Let me ask you this question. How was it that E. Jean Carroll was able to bring a case 30 years after the fact?
You're asking me how?
It's very important to the case.
Okay, well,
it's actually a key component.
So by your argument, Bill Cosby's never raped anybody before.
I asked you a question.
And by your logic, because it was 30 years ago, it couldn't have happened. Why are you asking me that?
You're changing the subject again.
No, you're asking me 30 years.
I think the issue is you're so ignorant on these issues.
I don't think I'm ignorant at all. I think you're.
So then, what was the pretext?
You're unwilling to put any responsibility on Donald Trump for anything.
What was the pretext? Trump is wrong. Trump is bad. We've already agreed. He's done bad things.
Wrong and bad and illegal are different things.
So and this is a liability case, not a legality case, not a criminal case.
Sure.
So the pretext by which the case came about is extremely important in law, and I'm asking you the details because you don't know. I presume you don't know, and that's why you hold this position.
Okay. All I said to you, and you want to quiz me on these cases, but I
don't know what you're talking about.
Tim. Is he a liable sexual abuser? Yes or no?
No.
So he's not a felon. He's not a liable sexual abuser.
Oh, well, actually, let me clarify. If I get 3 guys to come in here with badges on and they say you're a rapist, are you a rapist?
If I'm found liable in a court of law, I could be liable for sexual abuse.
I'm pretty
sure if 3 cops came in here and it was presented in a courtroom, my attorneys would defend me. And
what if I paid off a judge?
Oh, so you're saying Trump paid off, I'm sorry.
I'm not.
Carroll paid, okay.
I'm asking you a question to understand your moral worldview.
That's not a non sequitur.
I'm asking you a question to determine what your moral worldview is.
Sure.
You keep changing the subject and interrupting when I ask these questions.
Apologies. Go ahead.
If a judge is bribed and finds you liable of rape, are you a rapist?
If it's proven that a judge has been bribed, then obviously you would probably win on appeal, right?
What if the judge brought the case illegally?
Is that right? Is that fair?
Well, perhaps you would. I mean,
right.
the question was, would you be a rapist? Would you consider a person to be a rapist if a judge was paid off to do it?
Not if it's proven that a judge was paid off.
But we don't know.
Was the judge paid off?
In this instance, we don't know. I'm just asking you, in a circumstance where a judge it's not a legitimate ruling,
if it's
the ruling itself
I'm answering your
lacks
question.
merit.
I'm answering your question. If it's proven, obviously, that if a judge is paid off, then obviously.
What if a judge brought the case illicitly, meaning it wasn't actually able to be brought into a court, but he did anyway?
Okay, so being bribed and your opinion of being illicitly brought are two completely different things.
So I'm asking these questions. If a judge brought forth a case, or I should say, a case was brought to a judge that did not have legal merit to be entered into court of law, and he said, we're doing it anyway, and then said, you're a rapist. Is that legitimate?
I know where you're going with this.
Where am I going?
And you're making the case that that's what happened here in the E. Jean Carroll case.
I'm trying to suss out your moral worldview on when do you determine that an act of the judiciary is not actually legal?
If that's proven. If it could be proven that way.
So the court.
Yep.
My
you asked me the judge question. I gave you my best.
The point of this is, if your argument is the very blanket, a guy said a thing, we can certainly agree a guy said a thing. If the question is, did Trump in a legitimate setting face these claims and convictions? The answer is no. And I can break it all down fact by fact, detail by detail. Specifically with the E. Jean Carroll case, there's numerous factors as to why this is meritless. Notably, that the New York State legislature passed, it might have been, I think it was the state, passed a law allowing claims beyond the statute of limitations for a period of 1 year to be brought up for civil action. The only person who picked it up was E. Jean Carroll, and then it disappeared. This is lawfare. Additionally, E. Jean Carroll's story made literally no sense. She claimed to have been wearing clothes that didn't exist. She claimed to have access to rooms that she did not have access to. And Trump, the most famous man in New York, instead of going into his hotel across the street from the Bergdorf Goodman, went into a crowded building where there was no one for this one period for no reason. None of it made sense. And we can sit here and say, well, that story is certainly strange, but why did she claim to have clothes that didn't come? Why was she claiming to be wearing clothes that didn't even exist at the time? A specific dress that wasn't released until years later. More importantly, she didn't have a key to that room, nor did Trump. And she also said the Bergdorf Goodman, one of the busiest stores in New York, had no people in it. So you then say, I find that all to be credible. Okay. And the New York State legislature passed a law allowing her to bring it.
I never said that.
So why would you agree with this stuff?
The only thing that I said, Tim, was that he is a liable sexual abuser. Now, we could have disagreements on whether you think it's credible or not. I asked you the question very simply.
And here's my worldview on government. I think when government makes claims, they have to prove it. And if they can't, I wouldn't do it. So when I see a guy who's clearly innocent on death row, I don't call him a murderer. I say they have cheated an innocent man. I call him an innocent man. When Kamala
the Parkland Five, right? They're innocent.
We're not arguing the Parkland Five.
Okay.
My point is when you have people on death row, I oppose the death penalty, who are innocent, I won't call them a murderer. If the state falsifies evidence, and they've done this on numerous occasions to imprison innocent people, the state is the criminal. The prosecutors are the criminals.
I think here's where
and they need to be in prison.
Tim, sorry to interrupt. I think this is where our disagreement is. While we have a lot of different disagreements on, Donald Trump, whether he's a criminal or not, the fact of the matter still stands. He was found liable for sex. Doesn't mean that it's credible. Tim, I think you're misinterpreting what I'm saying here.
No. I've clarified that point. The difference between us is you trust government. I don't.
I don't trust government 100%.
But you trust them enough to convict people.
Here's what I
don't.
Here's what I will say, Tim. Okay, and
that's fine.
Here's what I will say, Tim, and then I'm sure you want to move on to some other stuff. But I don't always trust government. All I'm simply saying is I gave you my moral.
Yeah, government said so, and you agree.
Well, it's not just about government. It's about his behavior. It's about the things he says. It's about the things he does. I think it's an embarrassment.
I think you're emotionally offended by Trump as a character, so you're willing to entertain illicit government action because you don't like the man.
No, I think there's a lot of reasons why I don't like Donald Trump. There's a policy standpoint of it, and then there's the moral standpoint of it.
What other policies don't you like?
Atrocious human being, okay? An atrocious human being. I think maybe we agree on that. I don't know.
This is the distinction.
Would you agree he's a really bad guy?
No, I wouldn't say that.
He's not a bad guy.
You said
Decent guy.
you've just changed.
Good father, good husband.
Oh, he is a great father.
Having unprotected sex with a porn star 2 weeks after Barron is born, that you think that's a good father?
I don't think a single action could define a man who's got great kids who have been very successful. I think people are neither absolutely good or absolutely evil. There's varying degrees of whether someone could be good, bad, or otherwise. And Donald Trump has certainly done things that knock him down a peg or two and bring him down to the lower tier, but he's done a pretty good job with his family, indeed. I mean, look at the success they have. His kids are well-adjusted, successful
3 different
individuals.
Lives, yeah.
C'est la vie, I suppose.
Even Hillary Clinton on the debate stage said he's a good father.
This weird, like, puritanical argument doesn't work on me. I'm not a conservative.
I didn't say you were.
Right, so when you say Donald Trump banged a lot of people, I'll be like, certainly did.
I just don't think he's a very good person.
That's the narrative context of all this, right? Because the big thing the Dems blamed Hillary's loss on in 2016 was that she was accused of being a felon. And they thought that made a big difference. And it did make a difference. But they thought that if they could throw that felon label onto Trump, then there was an opportunity to get that to do the same thing that happened to Hillary. But they don't realize there were a lot more intangibles under that besides the felony accusation, which is why Trump was able to spin it as outlaw. And also the law is important, I think. I agree, like, the law is important, which is why it's so important that we, like, really suss out whether there's political lawfare, because that undermines the whole trust in the entire legal system, and then you just have chaos.
Well, I mean, going back to what...
If you're making an argument that, like, some Christian Catholic person might agree with, it might work on a Catholic Christian or whatever, or conservative. I'm an urban liberal moderate, and I think Trump has certainly sinned quite a great deal. But people having done bad things does not define them as...
So policy is
a singular bad action doesn't make someone a bad person.
So is it fair to say, Tim, that policy...
Although there are questions of whether being with a guy one time makes you gay.
I would say it probably does.
Go to boonies.com.
Unless you do.
For the record, Tim,
be gay or don't be gay.
Tim, I will not go on a date with you tonight.
We can compare policy versus empathy too. But after meeting with Trump and having dinner with him, there were a few examples that stuck out, which seemed like really hard to fake empathetic impulses.
Yeah.
Including around Hillary, when we were talking about how Hillary got maybe pushed, maybe not pushed by the Secret Service into her car. And we all started laughing.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's actually not really nice. You could get seriously
he's a really
hurt.
bad guy. A guy wouldn't say, when he talked about John McCain and he said he didn't respect him because he was captured. I tend not to like people who are captured. I felt that should have been disqualifying right there.
I was mad when he made fun of Rand Paul's hair, but then he started
that's
debating
different.
Hillary, and all
Listen,
the feelings
Tim,
of anger went away.
Tim, I don't like J.D. Vance. I don't like Ron DeSantis, but I'll tell you something I would never do. Shit on their military service. I respect anybody who serves this country, and I respect their military service. When you say you don't respect somebody because they were captured, can you admit and agree with me that is just an awful, despicable thing to say?
Of course, I've said it before.
I don't think the Zoomers are going to care about that, though, because they've lost faith in all institutions.
When John McCain died, there are so many people that I know that just mercilessly attacked him for being a warmongering neocon. And I certainly didn't like him for those reasons, but Lord have mercy, the man was tortured for years.
For 5 years, yeah.
And was permanently disabled because of it. And
right.
I said nothing but nice things when he died, despite really despising him.
Well, that's nice of you. I think that's the right thing to say. I thought when he took the microphone from that woman, if you remember that moment when the woman's called, Barack Hussein Obama. I thought that was a great moment for the country.
Absolutely.
And Tim, I guess my point is Donald Trump would never do that. And I
agree, yeah.
And that's the point I'm trying to make. We can have disagreements. And I don't have the 34 counts in front of me. I don't know. You know a lot more about the case than I do.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
I don't doubt that, Tim.
I'll tell you what I see happening in this country. There's a million and one ways to describe it, but it looks like there are many people who I would describe as default liberals. And that doesn't mean that they're Democrats or overtly politically liberal. This is a definition of a faction. They emotionally dislike Trump. Therefore, Trump is bad. What Trump does is bad. It's always going to be bad, whether, like, for example, is like the East Wing thing happening right now. Like the fake outrage over tearing down the East Wing is just the weirdest thing. He's not the first president to do it. He's not the last president to do it.
I'm not focused on that.
I understand.
Roosevelt,
This doesn't need to be on you. I'm just saying there's all these liberals that are coming out aghast that there's a remodel happening. And we had the worst riots in 50 years where all of our statues are being torn down. I'm not talking about Confederates. I'm talking about Thomas Jefferson, Hans Christian Heg, Frederick Douglass, and they were supporting that. And so when you see the incongruent political ideology, then we're like, okay, I don't think some of these people are legitimately concerned about Trump's policies. They don't like him personally.
For the record, I don't agree with any Democrat that was celebrating that stuff.
Tearing down statues?
Yeah, but if you're going to talk about that, about celebrating people who do criminal activities, again, I don't.
Who?
Well, if you're tearing down statues, property, obviously that's against the law. You can't do that. We can agree.
Well, I'm not arguing about the political criminal. I'm arguing. I'm arguing the political, not the criminal. Is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So there are certain degrees of civil disobedience and actions that
January 6th was political. We can say that, right?
Absolutely. And there are certain things that I'm okay with and not okay with, because what we're really arguing is the distinct moral worldviews. For instance, riots in Dublin over the rape of a 10-year-old girl. And the reaction from the right is largely going to be like, we don't like riots, but man, we really understand why they're mad at the cops over this one. Mm-hmm. And then you get BLM riots and you're like, okay, these people are crazy. Only 9 unarmed black people were killed. It's not 10,000. Why are they burning all these cities down? But I would say riots, generally bad, but you would empathize with those who share your moral worldview. So in the instance of political civil disobedience, I'm not criticizing, at least for now, the violent criminal action of destroying property. I'm criticizing they desecrated American history, symbols, and figures, and are now acting aghast as though Trump remodeling the building is worse. They were supportive of one and they opposed the other. It is completely illogical.
I mean, I understand where you're going with that, but we can go back to, not to do whataboutism, but we can go back to January 6th and the desecrating on Nancy Pelosi's desk type stuff, destruction of property.
I called for those people to be arrested.
Well, the guy who you voted for called them hostages and patriots.
Some of them were, yeah.
Okay, he didn't say some of them were.
So what?
So what?
Yeah.
So you don't think it sets a bad precedence, Tim?
No.
When the president, hold on, let me just finish. When the president of the United States calls people hostages and patriots who beat police officers with their own batons, some of those officers now have traumatic brain injury, and you're totally fine and you don't care. You can look that up if you don't.
So you're doing these absolute things. You're totally fine. I called for the arrest of all of these people.
You called them hostages and patriots. You don't have a problem with that?
I don't.
Okay.
I mean, like, if like a guy says thing, I'm not Trump. I'm not part of his cabinet. I'm not a staunch conservative, and Trump does a lot of bad things a lot.
This has
you keep playing this absolute game where it's like you're a supporter, therefore everything he does is good.
No, but you're okay with it. You're not calling it out. That's what I have a problem with. You should again
calling out what?
When somebody beats a police officer with their own baton. Hold on.
Lock him up.
And the president calls them hostages and patriots. Why can't you just say, geez, that's wrong. You're not a patriot when you beat a cop.
Because Trump's talking about a general group of people, not an individual who did one thing.
He generalized everybody.
Indeed, and a lot of these people were innocent and were wrongly convicted.
Okay, I mean, we can go back to that. The point that I was simply trying to make was
true. So when you have this issue of a group of rioters on January 6th who were violent, smashing windows, first thing I said was lock them up. Send him to prison.
Yeah,
you don't get to do that.
A lot of those people.
He certainly did. And the reason why is because the Biden DOJ overplayed its hand and went after an excessive amount of innocent people, which created a mess.
So you care about the DOJ overplaying their hand? You think Donald Trump is doing that now?
Hold on. I care about the DOJ overplaying its hand. I care about any
if it's
instance
political, right? We agree.
Where law enforcement is targeting innocent people and locking them up. I don't care if it's California, Chicago. I don't care if it's Texas or Nebraska or the DOJ.
Adam Schiff being targeted right now?
For what? What's he being targeted for?
Well, the prosecution allegedly, according to sources, are saying that they don't want to prosecute
That's
him.
conflicted, actually.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens.
What's he being targeted for?
Letitia James?
What are they being targeted for?
Well, $18,000 allegedly, and I don't think she's even going to go to trial.
No, Schiff.
Adam Schiff.
What was it? What are they accusing him of?
Well, my understanding, and from what the prosecutor said, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that, and again, you're right, it is conflicted, that they're not even going to indict him. My understanding.
The argument, actually, so there was, I think MSNBC came out and said the prosecutors are alleging it's not a strong enough case.
Right.
But then you had, I think it was some legal nonprofit came out and said that's incorrect. The prosecutors are bringing the charges.
So Letitia
we don't
James,
know.
$18,000.
But what was Schiff? What's Schiff being targeted over?
Well, lying. My understanding, my understanding, lying, and I correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it had to do with finances, lying, and bribes. My understanding.
No, that's not correct.
Okay, so tell me what
mortgage fraud.
Mortgage. Well, same thing, Letitia. Okay, same thing.
Yeah. So, like when you apply for a residence and claim that your primary residence is this building, you get a lower interest rate. That's fraud.
So, if he had an R next to his name, do you feel like he would still be?
Would if Adam Schiff was a Republican, would he be found? Probably
if he was approached, right?
Not.
And thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So why are they going after Adam Schiff?
I believe the main reason why they're going after him is because he's a Democrat. Because he's a Democrat that's been very outspoken about. Listen, I'm not an Adam Schiff fan. Okay, I'm not, but I believe weaponizing the DOJ is something, sadly, that is happening here. Letitia James.
Why is Trump doing that?
Going after his enemies, right? The enemy within, going after people that he feels have gone after him.
Here's the objective. In the Biden at the start of Donald Trump's in his campaign, he was accused of being a Russian spy, of colluding with a foreign adversary of the United States. There's a lot of conflicted information on this, but we know it's meritless. However, regardless of that, we know that there was a meeting with Comey, Sally Yates, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, where they said we're going to push this as like we're going to in Trump's presidency target him in this way. Now, by all means, certainly some people are going to say, well, that was a legitimate use of law enforcement or whatever. We now know that was never the case, that Trump was doing these things. There were false stories about Don Jr. having illicit access to WikiLeaks, false stories about connections to Russian banks. There was the Steele dossier, which was paid for by the Clinton campaign. Long story there. All of that was fake. How did this culminate? We had the arrest of Donald Trump, the front runner for the presidency, under highly dubious charges in various places. But you know what? By all means, claim it's not dubious. They arrested Trump's lawyers. Did you know that?
I'm not saying it wasn't political on the other side either. That's not my argument.
And certainly not my argument is not that. What about? My point is, I am looking at this like, why is Adam Schiff and Letitia James being targeted? Because a war was started in the DOJ by the Democrats, and Trump is carrying on. I'm not happy with any of it. I don't think it should be a thing that this country does, but I understand exactly why it's happening.
So just retribution.
It's not retribution. It's war. There's a difference.
It's also chaos because most of the bottom level of the DOJ is longtime staffers.
Yeah.
So there's certain stuff that is hard to push through because you can't get the actual bureaucrats to sign off on it. And there's all sorts of chaos around Jan 6, right? You have the plainclothes officers. You have the Nancy Pelosi calling off the National Guard.
If that's the case, then why didn't Donald Trump? If that's the case, then why was Donald Trump able to call in the National Guard with the snap of a finger in D.C. a few months ago? The argument from the right is always, why didn't Nancy Pelosi call in the National Guard? Why was Donald Trump able to call in the National Guard?
He would have been able to if it was more than a few hour process. But
I think the difference.
Interesting person that got left through.
Real quick, just to address that. Sorry, put a pin. The deployment of the National Guard into D.C. is a long, drawn-out process for a long period of time. Trump, the day of, being like, "Oh man, maybe we should have something."
So why do you blame Nancy Pelosi then? Why would he blame Nancy? I'm not saying you did.
But Pelosi did say on camera.
It's long and drawn out.
What did she say?
I
It's
heard
all
what
my
she
fault.
said, but she's an old lady. She says a lot of crazy.
An old guy.
By the way, to be clear, I don't support Nancy Pelosi either. I despise.
Look. I
despise Ilhan Omar. I despise.
I guess I'm getting to the point that there were other potential.
Blame Nancy Pelosi though.
No, forget Nancy. There were other potential motives to make this thing blow up, right? Because they can obviously use it against Trump for various reasons.
Well, yeah, they should.
And the Biden DOJ even prosecuted this cop, Shane Lamond. And whenever you have a protest. You have someone in the police department who's coordinating with the protesters, right? This is when we're going to show up. This is what we're going to do. This is where we're going to try and confine ourselves, right? And they have this relationship. This guy was working super hard to keep the violence down, keep it from going crazy, and the Biden DOJ charged him for colluding with protesters.
I'm sure you
based
can find
on
cases
the fact that they have this communication.
I don't deny
it's
that.
Still left over.
I don't deny that there are cases
he didn't get pardoned
that
by
people
Trump.
were overcharged. I don't deny that.
But we don't need to argue J6 because the rioters were bad.
Does it happen if Trump doesn't lie about the 2020 election?
The injuries were also inflated. The one cop who the media showed this cop on the ground surrounded.
Let me say this: January 6th absolutely would have happened even if Donald Trump wasn't talking about it.
I disagree.
You know how I know I'm right? Because I predicted it in September before the election even happened.
But I just respectfully, I disagree with you on that.
In September of 2020, I predicted that if Donald Trump didn't win the election, his supporters are going to go to D.C., it's going to be nuts, and they're going to storm the White House or something like that.
I just respectfully disagree with you. I think if Donald Trump didn't lie, which, by the way, he did about the 2020 election, he's the only president in American history that has not conceded an election. Okay, he lied. Hillary Clinton conceded the next day.
That's not correct. He's not. He's the only president who never conceded an election.
He conceded. He just thought it was fake.
No, he never conceded.
I'm pretty sure he never conceded. But
he
he's
never
not the
conceded.
only
You're
one.
wrong. Who else didn't concede an election? Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I suppose I'll give you that one. Saying the words "I concede" versus the legal challenge.
No, Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris picking up the phone and saying congratulations.
If you're arguing the words "I concede," I said I will give you that point.
Yeah.
I'm talking about whether or not the actions taken after the fact were of someone.
So you think? So Tim, this is interesting. You think that January 6th happens even if Donald Trump concedes the election and says Joe Biden won a free and fair election? You still think there'd be that many people storming the Capitol that are trying to overthrow a free and fair election?
Yes.
I respectfully disagree.
Because
with that.
I will stress it again. In September of 2020, on my show,
I know you said that. That's your opinion. That's fine.
So my point is, the things that were happening in this country led me to believe 2 months before the election that Trump supporters would not accept a Biden victory no matter what. Whether or not, and this is irrespective of Trump saying anything about the election being stolen because it hadn't happened yet. That was correct.
Again, I respectfully disagree.
I was vaguely wrong since at the White House.
If Donald Trump conceded and he said we can't be violent and he toned down the rhetoric and he lowered the temperature, I guarantee you January 6th doesn't happen. It happened. He did not concede. He said the Democrats stole it. Joe Biden stole it. It rigged. It was rigged. He still says that today. It's a fucking. I'm sorry. I shouldn't swear.
I was swearing too.
I apologize. It's a joke, Tim. It's a joke. There's no evidence of widespread. He still says it. That he won. Don't you have a problem with that? You don't have a problem with that.
Why did Biden get so many more votes than Kamala? Should they have run him if that was actually a true count?
What?
Well, but you think it was stolen?
Yeah. I think
it was
it's very possible. I don't know exactly what, but it's also possible this was the first election that was stolen.
So let's do this, right? So the issue is, of course, I've never argued the election was stolen or that there were Chinese ballots. I'm not saying you did. I'm making this point.
Yep.
However, I have argued that we are in a constitutional crisis following the 2020 election because the failures of the Supreme Court to pick up Texas v. Pennsylvania. So the issues at play from the Trump administration, largely not the ancillary groups like Mike Lindell or anything like that, have to do with violations of the Constitution in the furtherance of a Democrat victory. These questions have never been answered, and now we are in a nebulous state where it's going to impact us very heavily in 26 and 28, especially with the Voting Rights Act going to the Supreme Court. I see this as a catalyst for the complete factionalization, balkanization, or otherwise, or collapse of the United States. And I largely blame the Supreme Court in 2020.
Okay. I mean,
are you familiar with Texas v. Pennsylvania?
I am, and I don't necessarily disagree with you. And by the way, we were in some very weird times during COVID at that moment. But the problem that I have, Tim, and going back to what I said before, is that the man continues to lie, and a president's words do matter. What he says matters.
They all lie. They're all lying.
They all lie.
Indeed. You think every president
about a presidential election?
They're lying about a variety of things.
Okay, I agree.
I didn't say singularly.
I agree that a lot of
politicians lie. News at 11.
I agree, but I also would say there's a difference between that and not conceding an election. And then we have, January 6th, which takes place. People died that day. And
what's Trump's argument about the election?
He says the election was rigged.
Well, like
he hasn't shown any evidence or proof that it was rigged. He claims the mail-in ballots when he told his own supporters not to do mail-in ballots. And then he claims that the mail-in ballots were rigged and all these votes were counted in the middle of the night. The bottom line is when we look at Mike Lindell, who I think is a clown, and we look at Dinesh D'Souza, who I think is a clown, and we look at these people as a source to, I think the election was stolen. It is a joke. It's never been proven in a court of law. None of the judges found any merit. I think it was like 0-61.
Well, I like Mike and Dinesh, but I agree that they're wrong. And because I've consistently made the arguments, which apparently I just learned from Mike Benz, made me a target of Democrat NGOs and the Atlantic Council.
That's not good.
Because in 2020, my argument was they didn't fake ballots. They didn't rig voting machines. They ballot harvested.
Right.
There's videos of it. And it's legal in most places.
Pressler would probably agree with you on that.
But it's legal in most places. Yeah. And so the issue was Democrats did a massive. So you had universal mail-in votes, which made ballot harvesting substantially more effective. And then they went and they collected ballots. There are a handful of places where this is illegal, but it's typically legal or only restricted to 3 ballots per person. Dinesh D'Souza made the argument that people were ballot harvesting to a great degree and then dumping them. And that may be the case. We don't know.
Why is it when Trump loses, so many MAGA Republicans won't accept it, but when Trump wins, everything must have gone okay?
Because some people are in a cult.
Okay.
Well, and it was accepted.
I agree.
And there's a lot of suspicious stuff, right? So it's like, can we fix that suspicious stuff around our election processes, and then we can solve this problem of losing trust in the system, et cetera?
When Trump won, I accepted it. I didn't like the result, but I accepted it.
If the judiciaries and the executors of various states did not illicitly alter the rules of the election, Trump probably would have won.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know is a fair answer, but we can at least say Texas v. Pennsylvania needed to be answered, and the Supreme Court are a bunch of cowards. They were too scared to enter into an original jurisdiction legal case in such a contentious election that they said, we will abstain from our sworn duty.
And Tim, if Donald Trump said that, that would be different. But he hasn't said that, as you know.
I don't think Trump is the most what's the right way?
You understand what I'm saying, though? If Trump
agreed.
If Trump explained it like you just did, I don't think we would have had an insurrection.
Oh, I do.
Well, okay, I know we disagree on that, but the point again.
Well, actually, we would have had a January 6th.
I don't think it would have been as violent. I don't think I don't think it would have been anywhere near to what it was. I think Donald Trump riled up the base. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think there were a lot of idiots there that day. Now, there were a couple 100,000 people there, not violent. There were about, 700 people that were violent, right? 1,500 people.
Substantially less.
Right. I'm not saying hundreds of thousands of people were horrible people, but they believed him, that the election was stolen. They believed him.
I think the issue was around 100 or so people.
That's a lot of people there.
Were violent.
And
there were.
I thought it was more than that, but
well, it's because there was so there's three groups. There were principal rioters who were violent, and that was around 100 or something. I could be wrong. There were about 700 in the mob. Many of them were not. It wasn't possible for them to be violent because they were behind the others who were. And then there was the extended group of people who were milling about and didn't know the riot was happening.
Perhaps
the issue with why the pardons were favored is there's two reasons. For engaging in a violent riot and attacking police, I think 3 years in prison probably makes sense. Maybe a little high, but considering it's the
How about
capital.
Enrique Tarrio?
He wasn't even there.
Right, but convicted of seditious conspiracy. I know Enrique.
Wasn't even there.
You don't have to be there to be convicted of seditious conspiracy.
Yeah, that's silly. And they argued because he had a handful of phrases and statements that it warranted some kind of conspiracy. None of the Proud Boys knew.
What if you beat a cop on Black Lives Matter protests? Would you be okay if Joe Biden pardoned them? Let's just say there was somebody. And by the way, Joe Biden didn't pardon one person from the Black Lives Matter protest, and I don't condone violence on it. I guess that's the difference between me and a lot of people.
He did abandon Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. So let me just. I'll just lay it out. If let's the Black Lives Matter riots in 2020 were massive. Some of the biggest riots we saw in 50
Tens of millions of people.
I don't think it was tens of millions.
It was up there. It was up there, Tim.
Not for riots. Maybe you're saying people protested.
Right.
Very, very different from the rioting.
Right.
Only the rioters. There were
small percentage, right? Fair to say.
Yes, and we pointed out with January 6th, there was I think it was an estimate of 200,000.
Yeah.
And only a very tiny fraction were involved in the riot.
Right.
So for BLM, if the Trump administration started set up Capitol police offices around the country and started raiding random activists' homes who were not violent and were just marching down the street, I'd say absolutely not. Trump should not be doing this. And if Biden pardoned those people, I'd say okay. Furthermore, the people who did riot after 3 years, I'd also say I think 3 years is a long enough time in prison for a riot.
Okay, you're entitled to that opinion, but I would say the difference between me and a lot of other people is when it goes, I don't care whether you beat a police officer on, I think we agree on this. I don't care whether you beat a police officer during Black Lives Matter protest or you beat a police officer on January 6th. You're not a hostage. You're not a patriot. Now, we could disagree on how much time they should have served behind bars, and that's fine. Could have that conversation.
How much time do you think?
Okay, let's take an example of someone who
assault on an officer.
Okay, sure. Let's take an example of an officer that was beaten to a pulp. There were some officers that have traumatic brain injury. You could look that up. I think there's several officers.
I think only 10 were hospitalized, but we can go over that later.
Okay, I thought it was like 140, but okay. I know 140 officers were injured.
Injured number.
Injured, right.
Groups, most of those were tear gas
but
from their own deployment.
Example, I'm giving
Trump didn't arrest any of these people on the May 29th insurrection. Not a single one.
Just hear me out on this. Let's just say, to answer your question, one of those people beat a police officer to the point where he has traumatic brain injury. No, I don't think 3 years is enough. Just like if you beat a cop on Black Lives Matter protest and you gave another police officer life-changing injuries. No, I don't think 3 years is enough, Tim. Now, I'll give you the fact that there are people that were overcharged. I'm not denying
Most
that.
of them. So here's.
Do you agree? Can we agree on that? You think maybe a little bit more than that? If you beat a police officer to a point where he has traumatic brain injury?
In a singular incident where an individual beats a cop till he has life-altering injuries, maybe 10.
Okay.
Maybe 10 years.
Okay.
So here's the issue with January 6th and any other riot is it became political. And it became political because innocent people were being locked up and hunted down on misdemeanors. People were lied and smeared. The Biden DOJ raided a woman's home in Alaska who wasn't even in the Capitol because she looked like someone. I mean, this is freaking people out.
I know Pam Hemphill. She's done my show before, and now she's anti-Trump, but...
That's fine. The point is the DOJ went nuts. And so then what happens is it becomes very hard to isolate a granular moment in J6 because it's a singular political incident where Trump says too many innocent people have been assaulted by the DOJ, so we're shutting it down. Now, you come to me, if they did not arrest people, hunt them down for walking on the grounds, if they didn't arrest Owen Schroyer, who didn't go in the Capitol, or Brandon Strzok, who didn't go in the Capitol, if they said, no.
I thought Brandon did.
He did not.
With, what's her name?
He did not go in the Capitol. And I've met many people who, there's one story that I talk about quite a bit. I met a woman. She showed up an hour or so after everyone had already left the Capitol. But the barricades had still been removed from the grounds and the doors were still open. She and her husband were leaving the peaceful protest and walking through D.C. when they walked up to the Capitol building. No police, doors open, no riots going on. And they went to, I forget which door it was. It wasn't the side where the windows were all broken. It was the side where they opened it after the fact. She walked in, and there's that hallway, and her husband looked around and then left. And then several months later, their door was kicked in by feds. They were arrested for misdemeanor trespass and sentenced to 18 months in prison. So many of those stories freak people out. The story he mentioned about the officer, there are stories of people on the front line during the riots who are asking the officers, what can I do to help? And fighting the rioters back who got sent to prison. This became such an egregious blanket that for a political moment, people are just like, don't know, don't care, put a stop to it. And again, on a singular incident, we'd be like, as I said from day one, those people who attacked cops and rioted should be locked up.
I would have had to keep all those innocent people in jail to figure out that process.
In almost any aspect in life, you're going to find situations, including January 6th, where people are overcharged, and at times it's political. But my opinion doesn't change.
Mm-hmm. Then we get the George Floyd riots, where in front of the White House they firebombed the grounds. They set fire to St. John's Church. They injured over 100 and some odd federal law enforcement, and liberals in this country, default libs, I should say, left faction aligned individuals celebrated it. They insulted Trump. They called him bunker boy.
Who celebrated the violence? Like, is there a Democrat official, an elected official? They say that about Charlie Kirk.
Want me to pull up all the bunker boy quotes?
Can I ask you a question? Yeah. Because I hear that, and this pertains to right now, and I don't mean to change the subject, but I hear from the right, and I talked about this on Piers Morgan, where Riley Gaines said, Democrat politicians are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. I said, can you name me one?
AOC.
She did not celebrate the murder.
Well,
she said we shouldn't celebrate
debate.
His life.
It's a semantic debate.
But no, it's a lie. When people say that Democrat elected officials are there's a difference between celebrating a death, which, by the way, I would never do. It was horrible what happened to him, and not wanting to celebrate his life. Now, those are two completely different things. AOC never celebrated the murder. In fact, she called it out.
I disagree. And it's a semantic argument that I accept your position on. But my argument is when about a week after a person is assassinated, you go on the House floor and smear him and lie about him. I'm like, this is a person who is gloating over his death. And
that's different than celebrating his murder, though.
So my position is...
you concede that?
No. So I've had this debate already. One could say, on a simple semantic term, and I accept your argument on this one, I am not saying she jumped up and down and popped confetti. I am saying...
Inappropriate what she said. You think she said something that smeared him? I
said what she did was an opportunistic attack, glorifying, like maximizing their political benefit in a way. In a political standpoint, from a position of electoral politics and factionalized politics, she was celebrating.
Giving him the Medal of Freedom?
AOC?
No, I'm saying Donald Trump giving him the Medal of Freedom. Listen,
celebrating his life.
Well, listen,
it's respectful.
Okay. Again,
I'm saying that
all of a sudden you care about being respectful, but you don't care about all these things that I've talked about.
What do you mean don't care about being respectful? You're connecting things that aren't connected.
All right, let's stick with Charlie Kirk. I hear you. Okay. When I was on the air when Charlie Kirk was murdered, I was emotional. I was crying, not because I'm a Charlie Kirk fan. I never liked the man.
Who killed him?
Okay. Who killed him?
Yeah.
Well, as far as we know right now, it wasn't the left that killed him. It was a 22-year-old. Just like when they say the left tried to assassinate Donald Trump.
Well,
really?
Who was the guy? What was his name?
Tyler Robinson.
What was his motivating ideology?
What we've learned, and hopefully we will learn more in a court, because I don't like to hear, what people say on, Fox News and OAN and Newsmax, or what Matt Gaetz has to say about it. What we've learned is he was obviously radicalized. We need to figure out how.
What was his motivation?
We don't know all the details of how he was radicalized.
We'll learn that. We'll start here. So he's the alleged assassin.
Yes.
If you trust the FBI, and
you?
A little bit, because I know Cash and Dan.
Right.
I do trust them, but
you do.
Indeed, to throw my weight behind the entirety of a government institution, even with them,
there were some weird circumstances. I'll give you
that.
Yeah,
I mean, the information which leads us to the evidence of his motivating ideology is very weird.
There were some weird circumstances.
However, what we can say is there were transgender individuals, 7 identified accounts so far, that expressed foreknowledge of the assassination.
Transgenders had nothing to do with this 22-year-old doing what he did. There's no evidence to prove that.
There are 7 accounts of transgender individuals.
Do you think a transgender was responsible for this? I don't know.
Do you want to interrupt me, or am I going to make a point?
Go ahead.
There were 7 accounts online from transgender individuals that expressed foreknowledge of Charlie Kirk's murder. Mm-hmm. We don't know if some of them were just lucky statements, like Charlie Kirk will get what's coming to him very soon. But some of them were, tomorrow, there's going to be big news about Charlie Kirk and he'll regret it, like things like that. And we're like, okay, that's foreknowledge. We do know and again, this is if we trust the current state of the case, that the individual Robinson stated in these messages that it was Charlie's hate and and he loved this transgender furry individual. It appears, again,
why do you talk about a transgender like that? A furry individual?
Because that's what they're saying. You know what a furry is, right?
Yeah, I know. I mean,
if the guy was a chess player, I'd say he was involved in
I don't care what his sexuality is, and I don't care whether he's transgender or not. To me, it has no bearing, and there's
what's
no
the motivating ideology?
A transgender motivating ideology to murder Charlie Kirk.
Charlie Kirk was anti-trans and was shot just after being asked a question about trans people.
Well, number one, it wasn't a trans person that murdered Charlie Kirk, and number two, it was
the lover of a trans person.
It's yet to be proven that.
And I've already made that point. I'm saying right now, we don't know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we trust the FBI. Mm-hmm. The circumstances are very strange, but the evidence points to a man who was in a relationship with a transgender furry. That matters because of the underlying ideology. It connects to 7 accounts online that expressed foreknowledge. Again, investigated, not proven. However, there are these Discord chats the FBI has pulled and is investigating.
I don't understand the transgender stuff. Every time there's a mass
motivating
shooting.
Ideology of the person who killed Charlie Kirk was that he was anti-trans and this person's lover was transgender.
So what does that mean? Does that mean a lot of transgenders out there wanted Charlie Kirk dead?
Why are you saying that? I'm pointing out that Charlie Kirk was trans critical. I
understand what you're saying.
And there was a man accused of killing him who was in a relationship with a trans person, and he allegedly said because of his hate that he spreads.
So you think the trans person might have influenced him? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying there's an individual who was pro-trans. Charlie was anti-trans. That appears to be the motivating ideology.
Okay, well, that's yet to be determined in a court of law. We'll see how it goes there. But what I don't...
And there are people who think Israel did it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that those people are idiots. Those people are morons. Listen, it's horrible. I know you were friends with him. I disagree with Destiny, a lot of other people that haven't completely denounced this. It is absolutely, the man was a father, he's a husband. I despise a lot of the things he said. I thought he spread a lot of bad things.
Like what?
Okay, let's start off with Paul Pelosi. Okay, so, and I've watched this video extensively, and listen, he called out what happened to Paul Pelosi, the bludgeoned with a hammer, right? Yes. He said, oh, that was horrible what happened to him. But then with a smile on his face, this was like a day or two after. And by the way, Paul Pelosi almost was killed, okay? The guy's in jail right now. He said he would call one of his listeners a hero if someone put up the bail for this guy. He said it with a smirk on his face, and let's ask him some questions. He said it with a smile on his face. That would be like me going on the air, which, by the way, I would never do, and say, hey, let's raise some money for Tyler Robinson, and let's ask him some questions. And if you raise money for Tyler Robinson and get him out of prison on bail, you're a hero. Tim, that is despicable. I am not a Nancy Pelosi fan. I'm not a Paul Pelosi fan. The guy almost died, okay? I played the clip. You could play it for yourself. I think it's despicable.
Yeah, we should play it.
Well, yeah. And Brian, real quick, I mean, you're saying that you just disagreed with things he said, but
sure.
On October 30th, you said he's worse than garbage.
Yeah, I thought Charlie Kirk was garbage. I stand by that statement, and I'll give you reasons why.
On July 7th, you said you hated him.
Yeah.
I don't believe you that you just disagreed with things he said. That sounds like
wait, hold on a second.
I'll happily answer that. I'll defend everything that I've said about.
Now, I'm not going to outright defend every component of what Kirk said, but there is a little bit more context.
Yeah, I know there's context.
Charlie Kirk was saying so this is in the context of not knowing why the attacker did it. The speculation from a lot of people was that there was some illicit activity going on with the Pelosi's.
Which was not true.
It didn't make sense that they didn't have proper security. Mm-hmm. Who was this weird guy? Charlie Kirk said, bail him out and ask him some questions.
The guy almost died. Now, listen, let me be clear.
Let me give you contemporary context matters.
You could do a 2-hour podcast, and in 99% of that podcast, you can call out what happened to Paul Pelosi. But with a smile on your face, if you call somebody a hero for bailing a guy out who almost killed somebody,
I mean, I'm looking at Politico.com.
Like
I'm looking at the New York Times.
I hate that.
I'm looking
it's
at
hard
all
to
these
believe.
places, and there's a little bit of mention here. For example, Politico says top Republicans reject any link between GOP rhetoric and Paul Pelosi assault. Of course you should reject any link. Why is the Republican Party, why is the conservative movement to blame for gay schizophrenic nudists that are hemp jewelry makers breaking into somebody's home, or maybe not breaking into somebody's home? Why are we to blame for that exactly?
See, I got to pause real quick.
That's not the clip that I was talking about, but yeah, go ahead.
Contemporary, there's more. It's
gotcha.
another minute.
I got you.
The contemporary context is what's important. we cannot look back after already knowing the details you know and scoff at a comment made at a time when we didn't know.
Okay, but here's what I will say to that.
And why is he still in jail? Why has he not been bailed out? By the way, if some amazing patriot out there in San Francisco or the Bay Area wants to really be a midterm hero, someone should go and bail this guy out. I bet his bail's like $30,000 or $40,000. Bail him out and then go ask him some questions.
It's not a hero, Tim.
No matter what his bail is, they're going after him with attempted murder, political assassination, all this sort of stuff. I'm not qualifying it. I think it's awful. It's not right. But why is it that in Chicago you're able to commit murder and be out the next day? Why is it that you're able to trespass, second-degree murder, arson, threat of public official, cashless bail? This happens all over San Francisco, but if you go after the Pelosi's...
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's not
true.
So
the full context is whether he's right or wrong.
He was wrong. Attempted murder, he's wrong.
He's making an argument that in these jurisdictions, they tend to revolving door a lot of these criminals, but not the guy who attacked Paul Pelosi. And he's making 2 points as it pertains to a midterm hero who would bail him out, and that is show Democrats this is what you do, and also ask him questions, because at the time, they didn't know if this guy was like buying drugs or something.
Tim, I understand what you're saying, but the point that I'm just trying to make here, and I can give you many of other examples, the day after somebody is almost killed with a hammer, you can have a conversation about, well, geez, why are these people not getting bailed out, and why are these people getting bail? To call somebody a hero or a patriot.
A midterm hero.
Yeah. He also a patriot. Just like, you know, it's
I
funny,
think they'd be a patriot because they would be able to ask this guy questions, which got information, which then affected the midterms.
Don't you think it'd be a little bit more prevalent for law enforcement to ask him questions than somebody who bails him out? It's ridiculous.
It's immaterial. I give Charlie Kirk's statement here a D-.
Okay,
it was,
I appreciate that.
I don't think it was a good thing to say, but I understand the greater context of what he was saying. Albeit Charlie has had many statements where it's like, Charlie, you could have said that a lot better. If he came out, you shouldn't call someone a hero over this. It was very, very bad. At the time, we were all speculating as to what this actually could have been, because it was weird that the Pelosi's wouldn't have active security.
Did Matt Gaetz or Ted Cruz apologize when they tweeted out that it was some sort of gay, retweeted and tweeted out that it was a gay relationship?
Look, if you want to nitpick every time someone posted some silly nonsense,
let's call it all out. It's wrong. But why don't they apologize for it? Why don't they retract? They never apologize.
Because it's a war.
That's not a legitimate excuse.
It's not an
terrorist
excuse.
attack in New Orleans.
Fact.
The terrorist attack in New Orleans. We were being told that it was an undocumented immigrant.
No one's excusing. The fact of the matter is,
why can't people apologize?
Two factions are trying to rip each other to shreds, and you're not going to convince people on the right to apologize when the left doesn't apologize either.
I disagree with you.
The left is not going to apologize, bro.
Okay, I can give you many examples of the left.
And I can give you many examples of the right apologizing.
When does Donald Trump apologize for something?
Donald Trump?
Yeah. He's the leader of the Republican Party.
Singular. When has Obama apologized for the drone strikes?
Well, that's your opinion.
No,
I'm talking about comments that you've made, and
we can easily pull up instances where the left and the right have apologized for things. As to each other, it is mostly, and this is the funny thing, because I always find myself in these positions where I'm like, yes, the right's not going to apologize, and leftists are like, the right. Oh, you are unable to step back from your position and see what's going on. I am telling you, the right is going to say nasty things about the left and never apologize for it, and the left is going to say nasty things about the right and never apologize for it.
Doesn't make it right.
Because indeed, it's not right. It doesn't matter. It's a war. Donald Trump going after Letitia James and Adam Schiff is not because he's like, I want retribution. It's because he's like, I'm at war with these people. He is going after them for I would say, tangible political effects that he wants to obtain. He's not like Adam Schiff's going to suffer. He's going, take Adam Schiff off the chessboard.
Okay, I understand, Tim. I understand what you're saying, but it goes back to my original question, which I disagree with you on, and if you could give me another example. Can you name me, and again, I'm sorry for the loss of your friend. I am a compassionate person. What happened to him is terrible, and I want to emphasize that over and over again. And by the way, any Democrat, anybody, I'm not talking about elected official, who has celebrated his death is despicable. And I've called that out on my show constantly. We need to call out political violence on both sides. It does happen on both sides. We had a guy go into a church in Michigan who was a huge Trump supporter who shot up a bunch of people. I'm just making
What was that one?
He went in there. He's a huge, staunch Trump supporter. He went in there and he shot a bunch of people. People are saying because he was anti-Christian. It was a Christian hate crime.
This was the Mormon, right?
I don't know what his religion was. I just know that he was a Trump supporter.
Right, but this was a Trump supporter indeed. Yeah. He had American flags. But
Sure.
the attack wasn't political.
But
Yeah. This was the guy had a problem with individuals in the church. And
Right.
was getting, so
But he was a Republican. He was a Trump.
That's not political violence.
Okay. Well, listen.
But I also don't believe your full-throated condemnation when you said you hate him and you believe he's worse than garbage. I think Osama bin Laden was that, and I celebrated.
Okay, so there's
Why
a
aren't you
difference.
celebrating?
Okay, I hate people that
He hates people. He admitted it. We got you.
He said he hates Charlie Kirk.
I don't hate Tim. I don't hate Tim because we're both two bald white brothers. But I actually am enjoying this conversation, but even though I've been called retarded, that's okay.
You can't do that. I'm mixed race. You can't. You're oppressing me.
Listen, I'm going to be very clear on this, okay? I hated Charlie Kirk.
I can tell.
Okay, now, it doesn't mean that I wanted him to be murdered. I want to be very clear on that. He was a father. He was a husband. My understanding, he was a good father, right? I hate the constant attacks on brown people, on gay people, on women who get abortions, calling them murderers, which, by the way, he's called time and time again, which I think is absurd. I don't like what he stood for. Now, I give him credit for building what he built with Turning Point USA. Quite an accomplishment, the following that he had. But I'm not going to celebrate his life. I would certainly never celebrate his death. I can tell you, I hate Donald Trump.
What?
I hate everything he stands for. Doesn't mean that I want him to be assassinated, because I don't. What happened to Charlie Kirk is terrible for the country. It's terrible. It's terrible what happened that day. I know people that were 10 feet away. It's awful. And I was emotional because I'm a human being and I have compassion for people. I can hate what somebody stands for and still have compassion for somebody.
I didn't have compassion for Osama bin Laden.
I'm not. You think I would compare? Hold on a second. That's ridiculous. You think I would compare Charlie Kirk to being a mass murderer and
Yes,
a
you said
terrorist?
he's worse than garbage.
Okay, saying somebody is worse than garbage is not saying that I think he's a terrorist that's responsible for murdering hundreds of that. That's a ridiculous
But let's
statement.
let's move a little bit forward because we've got a few minutes left. And
Okay.
You brought up abortion.
Yeah.
I'm curious what your abortion position is.
Oh boy, we're another.
I know it's the hottest subject. It's like the
So
hardest.
here's
one.
my opinion, Tim. Okay, if it was like a 6-month or 4-month thing, I would be okay with that. I think it's reprehensible if there are women out there that are using abortion as birth control. But I don't want to tell
6
a woman.
months.
I don't want to tell a woman what to do with her body. Okay, I don't want the government involved in telling women what to do with their bodies. I don't know what it's like to be pregnant. Yes, I can.
6 months is viable.
Okay, well, maybe 4 months. I'd be okay with that as well. But especially in some states in this country, if you're the victim of incest or rape, you have to be forced to have that child. I find that to be reprehensible. And for the people out there that are so anti-abortion, and I don't call it pro-life, for the people out there that are anti-abortion, I ask you this question. How many people have you adopted? How many children have you
A
adopted?
lot, actually.
Okay, well, I know a lot of people that have not. And there are hundreds of thousands of kids right now, Tim, that are waiting to be adopted. Okay? If abortion is illegal across the country, what are we going to do with all those kids?
It's a responsibility thing too, though.
But this is not a real argument. This is like.
You think abortion's murder?
Well, so if we can adopt every kid,
hold
can we ban abortion?
on. The adoption thing is a meme. I think it's like a generality that's not correct. I think the highest rates of adoption are among pro-life religious families, like the Coney Barrett.
Evangelicals, Catholics.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah. And
I
so this is not a real argument by the numbers.
And also, if we were to have every child adopted, can we then ban abortion?
Listen, if you want to have
how
100,
about that?
if you want to have 100 kids, Tim, wearing beanies, you're allowed to do that. And I would say have as many children as you like. But I don't like telling other people what to do. You can vote for you want. You can have an abortion. Listen, it's a very difficult thing for any woman to choose to do so. But I don't want to tell. Just like I didn't want people to be forced to get the jab.
Abortion as contraception, you think should be allowed? Not good, but legal.
I think that's reprehensible. I'd also be okay with, limiting how many abortions somebody could have. Obviously, if somebody has 5 abortions,
We got a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Tim, we have a problem. I just
Yeah,
don't wanna
I'm traditional pro-choice.
So let me ask
I don't
you,
want
can
to
ask
tell
you
the
something?
guy with the hammer
Can I
what
ask
to
you something,
do.
Tim? So a quick story. I know you're running out of time here. I'm outside a Raiders game in Las Vegas. I see a woman who's far right with a sign that says "My body, my choice." It was during COVID. It was about the vaccines. By the way, I wasn't.
Which wasn't meant to be a derisive comment about the left.
I wasn't for mandates. I want to be very clear on that. Okay.
But just to say, the reason they had that sign is to attack the political statements of the pro-choice.
I understand that, but then I said to her, "Okay, I'm with you. My body, my choice. What about if you're pregnant? Is that your body, your choice? Oh, that's very different."
Yes, because the point of the sign was to derisively insult the argument from the left.
Maybe. With
We
some
know
people,
they disagree with
She
it.
wasn't the most intelligent person to have a conversation with.
But the argument there, and I'll fix it for her. My body, my choice, pertaining to the injection of a drug into your body, is very different from two different bodies in one space.
Okay, well, that would be your definition of what a body is, and we can get into the weeds on that
It's
one.
the literal definition.
We can get into the weeds on that one, but there are brilliant people who perform pregnancies every day, brilliant doctors who would disagree with you on that. So everyone
that's
has
not an argument. That's called appeal to authority.
Everybody has a different opinion on this. Okay,
doctor licensed
and you're
by the
entitled.
FDA.
There are two distinct bodies in with a pregnant woman has a body within her and her own body. And the argument from the right, whether you agree with them or not, is that there are two distinct individuals at play.
But here's the big difference here, Tim. Even though we disagree, we don't disagree. Do we? Are you pro-life?
No.
Okay.
I probably, I'll just say I think abortion as contraception is wrong.
Yeah.
I'm largely in the Ron Paul camp of it should be
I agree with
illegal.
that.
It should be unthinkable. And I think the problem is, as a culture and society, women get abortions as contraception. And to what number? I'm not arguing. I'm saying
Geography shouldn't play. Sorry to interrupt. Geography shouldn't play a role in a woman's body, though. You would agree with that, right?
What does that mean?
What it means is in some states in this country, it is illegal for a woman to get an abortion. And in some instances, she has to drive to another state. So you think
geography plays a role in murder laws?
Yeah. Geography plays a role in drug laws.
Body, I just have a problem with that.
I mean, this
Geography,
is a good way to reduce
where
the
you,
cultural
what society
tension.
you choose to, I disagree. That's going to make it way worse.
No, to make it decentralized, I mean.
Yeah, geographic hyperpolarization is what creates civil wars.
Yeah,
No,
I agree with Tim on this one.
The Wade thing.
But it's happening no matter what we do.
Yeah. See, me and Tim agree on some things.
When you have so these I brought this up time and time again. Colorado has unlimited abortion up to 9 months. Oklahoma has banned it outright. Okay, so what's going to happen is women in Oklahoma are going to be like, oh my God, I have to leave. They'll go to Colorado.
Right.
And then men I'll just say men and women in Oklahoma who are liberal are going to be like, we better get the fuck out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Then men and women in Colorado who are right-leaning are going to be like, holy crap, we got to get the F out of here.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to hyperpolarize both states, and that's going to entrench the political worldview where in the United States, in the 90s, we had a left and a right that largely agreed with each other on most things. The argument over abortion was the amount of weeks that it would be legal. And it was going back and forth. The right was saying, we shouldn't have any abortion. And there was a compromise. Okay, maybe 6 weeks, maybe 14. Today, it's no abortion, all abortion. What's going to happen now is in each hyperpolarized state, California, Oregon, Washington, Illinois, as blue ones, the left and the right will become moderate liberals and leftists. And in red states, it's going to be moderate conservatives and the far right.
The split will continue to increase. Go finish.
What this means is, if in the United States as a whole, our left and right largely agree with each other, you find a middle ground, which is very similar to both.
Yes.
If people geographically hyperpolarize, then you will get a moderate conservative, let's say Indiana, debating a far right ultra-nationalist or whatever.
Yeah.
And you'll find a middle ground, which is now relative, like no longer moderate. Now it's staunch, hard conservative, and the blue states are staunch, hard left. These individual states now looking at each other will be like, your worldview is so far away from mine, you're a threat to my existence. That is what has been happening. New York saw, I think, 500,000 people leave since 2020. These are all moderate to conservative individuals who left and went to other areas, entrenching those politics. The reason why Chicago is going the way it's going, the reason why Portland is going the way it's going, where the cops are arresting conservatives, is because the state is now a debate among various factions of left with no conservative, and the conservatives have left. This will end up with Trump sending in the troops, as he's doing, and will end up with the states defying it, which they are doing, and then ultimately, I think it's very likely we get to a point where Trump suspends habeas corpus along the routes in which the troops are being deployed, just like Abraham Lincoln did. And then after winning whatever reconstructive or whatever war that happens, Congress will retroactively approve of Trump's actions.
There's two dimensions to it, which is the diverging values. We're outside of a media monopoly, so people are rediscovering their values. And then the other element is there's huge cultural differences within the U.S. that go back to the settler groups that even within intra-British separate districts that still make a huge difference on how we vote politically. And so when you have a country with different cultures, just like Iraq, as Sunni, Shiite, Kurd, then you have this problem where one group's going to dominate the other, or you're going to get a strongman. So the only way we can fix this is by reducing the power of the federal bureaucracy so there's less to fight over.
But make no mistake about it, going back to abortion, the reason why in some states in this country there's no exceptions for rape or incest is because of Donald Trump, because he appointed these people on the Supreme Court who overturned Roe versus Wade. Now, you could have your opinions on abortion, and that's fine, but it is so beyond unreasonable to me to look at a 13-year-old girl in the eye and say, hey, you have to have that, for lack of a better term, rape baby. People are sick. Now, if you want to have your daughter, that's your business. I'm not going to get involved.
Right.
But there are states in this country, Tim, and that is because of Donald Trump, because he appointed certain members on the Supreme Court who overturned Roe versus Wade. We need to get in the middle. Let's get in the middle here.
There's things I hate too. Like I hate healthcare regulation. I really hate it. I think it kills hundreds of millions of people and causes untold devastation. But I'm in support of the New England states forming their own healthcare association because they don't like what RFK is doing, right?
Yep.
And you can't really get rid of the federal bureaucracy until you remove those dependencies by having these alternate solutions elsewhere.
Right.
With the last few minutes we have, I'll point out Roe v. Wade being challenged in any way ultimately will lead to a conclusion that you will absolutely despise, and we're only halfway there. I think the next move from the Supreme Court will likely be to have a nationwide ban on abortion. The reason why is the 14th Amendment, which I will read. All persons born or naturalized in the United States are subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. What I see as being very obvious is, first, in the 14th Amendment, you have the question of definition of person. Person and citizen are completely different. A person can be born, implying that there are persons who are not yet born. It says all persons born or naturalized. Now, they're making a reference to persons who exist outside of the United States who were not born here. There is also going to be an interpretation that a person born implies a person unborn. Whether you agree with that argument or not, I think the conservative Supreme Court will side on the fact that the unborn is a person. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privilege or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. What's likely going to happen, in my opinion, when this question next arises, because liberals will likely challenge the law once again in some state, it will then go up to the courts. The Supreme Court will then have to answer the question of personhood as it pertains to the 14th Amendment and the unborn. The conservatives will likely agree there is this is actually a component of Roe v. Wade. They were trying to determine at what point the unborn is a person. And so they settled on there's some point at which it's no longer a fetus that can't survive on its own. It's survivable on its own. It is now an individual person that can be killed. I believe the Supreme Court's largely going to say you cannot terminate the life of a person without due process. That means a woman will not be able to get an abortion without court order.
Wow.
That's a reading of the 6th.
That's going to be wild. That's going to be wild. I don't think you want that.
No, I think the issue is we don't want abortion as contraception, but you can't stop that by matter of law.
Right.
It's an issue of culture that your society
meet somewhere in the middle. Let's do 4 months, right?
4 months is nuts because 4 months is actually borderline viable.
3 months?
3 months is like Europe.
A woman doesn't know she's pregnant for what? A month maybe?
So I think
2 weeks,
the
3 weeks,
like
4 weeks?
6 weeks. The challenge is technology. You don't want to make that argument, and I'll tell you why. Because technology is rapidly advancing to where if the argument is time period, then you'll ban abortion. So right now, they already have technology to incubate babies in artificial wombs. So if the argument is viability, then the argument is all babies are viable from the moment of conception. So if you argue time frame based on viability, then it's going to ban outright. They're going to say, okay, but here's the argument. I would throw to you. Would you accept a circumstance in which a woman could terminate an abortion terminate a pregnancy at any time?
Of course not.
But no, hold on. But the baby would then be placed in an artificial womb and grown, and it lives and doesn't die.
That's a tough question. I've never been asked that one before. I think it's a very difficult circumstance because then you're a mother that knows that you have a child out there somewhere that you
That's not a justification for killing the child.
I think that would be very difficult. I think that should be the choice of the mother. If
to
the
kill
mother,
the baby?
No, to do what you are saying is to put it in another circumstance where
here's the
child
problem.
could survive.
Here's the
Leave
legal
it to
problem.
The mother, no.
Here's the problem. The court is going to ask if whatever you want to call it, fetus or otherwise, can survive. For what reason is it being killed?
Who's going to pay for it?
No. Hold on. For what reason should a woman have the right to choose a life she doesn't have to carry?
Do you want to start with the extreme circumstances or,
Like, I'm talking about a legal argument in the court of law saying, Your Honor.
If someone's the victim of sexual assault, if someone's incest, if there's a situation where maybe.
In what circumstance are you allowed to kill someone because they were a product of incest or rape?
I would say they should be allowed to have an abortion. We're kind of going back and forth on 3 months or 4 months. I'm okay with either of those.
But I'm not saying that. I'm saying we already have artificial womb technology.
Yes.
Conservatives are largely opposed to it.
Yes.
A woman says, I want an abortion, but a court says, okay, but we're going to incubate the zygote because it can survive. Mm-hmm. What then becomes the argument for the woman saying, no, kill it anyway?
Well, I think I don't speak for women. I certainly don't speak for women that are pregnant or that want an abortion. But I could make the argument that the woman could say, well, I don't want to know. And you might say this isn't a good argument.
It's not an argument for me. It's an argument for law. And I don't think the law would agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
A woman doesn't want a child and finds out later she has one, so she wants the child killed. It's not an argument to terminate the life of a child. So this is where I think we're going.
It's a difficult question to answer.
I think where we will end up largely is going to be women will have the right to terminate their pregnancies, and they're going to terminate it, but
forcing that woman to have that to be pregnant for all those months.
No. They're going to take the baby out even 6 weeks in and put it in an artificial womb.
Okay.
The woman will leave and be like, I'm not pregnant anymore. It's not my kid.
I was unaware that they have that technology now to do that.
Absolutely.
I was unaware of that.
Can
I ask you another question? Will that child, or to be a child, whatever your definition is of a human being, they will have foster parents? Is there a guarantee that that child will be able to live with parents?
Well, I can't see that far, but what I can say is...
That's an important question, though, don't you think?
Of course it is, but it's an after-the-fact question. The question of what we do for children is a question we must answer now. I'm bringing up a circumstance in which abortion may end because we can grow life in plastic bags.
Okay, but one of the arguments...
Look at this picture.
I understand. It's
crazy.
Hard to look at. One of my arguments from the right is that, people get involved in crime because they're raised without parents, the nuclear family. If I'm just saying, if that did happen and there was a law that was passed, I would want to make sure that child would have parents. I don't want them waiting for decades to get foster parents. So I think if that child would be guaranteed to have a parent or parents, then I think I might feel a little bit differently.
So if they don't have parents, we execute them.
No, but I mean,
that's your definition of. You see, that's where the problem lies.
Here's the issue,
and I disagree.
The argument, I disagree. The argument in court has always been viability. If the baby can survive on its own, you can't kill it. So my position is we are rapidly approaching technologically a position where the baby never has to be terminated. The pregnancy can be terminated.
Have Republicans put forth some sort of bill or anything
related to this?
Yeah.
Republicans are opposed to artificial wombs.
They are.
I mean, come on, look at that thing, dude.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I'm not a big fan of it myself, but it doesn't matter what I'm a fan of. The fact that technology exists means that a woman can say, I will not carry this pregnancy, and the court can say, but you don't need to kill it.
Isn't it a moot point, though, if Republicans aren't going to pass something like this?
No.
It's not.
Technology technology largely dictates our culture.
Yeah.
So, like the expansion of radio, TV, and then cell phones dramatically changed how we perceive and interact.
Can you put yourself in a position of one of these women for a moment? You're in a horrible situation. Let's just say you're raped. Horrible,
but real quick, if you don't need to be in the position of a woman
who's in this situation, which will never be.
Men have children too.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but just put yourself in a position of the woman who's pregnant, who for whatever reason wants to have an abortion, and then 5, 10 years, 20 years down the road, knowing, hey, I got a 10-year-old out there. Hey,
that's actually been true for men for all of human history.
I understand that, but the man isn't the one that actually has the baby and pregnant. But I'm
right. So the issue is this: men throughout history, some who have wanted children and some who have not, have found out years later they had kids they never knew about, but women never experienced that because women have the kids.
Right.
So circumstances where in the more extreme, a woman pokes a hole in a condom and tricks the guy and the guy has no idea.
Right.
Or
which is a crime.
Indeed. Or the inverse where a guy rapes the woman and then she has the kid a long time later.
Right.
This is creating a circumstance where, you don't get to just kill an unborn fetus, whatever you want to call it, if it can be saved by the doctor. And I believe you will likely lose every argument because the majority of people don't want limitless abortion. If you go to the average person and say, we have a great compromise, women can get an abortion whenever they want and the baby will be saved. Now, there's
my
no
biggest
argument.
concern is I want to make sure that there are parents out there that are able to take care of these kids.
Agreed. And that's a question for now, not a question related to technology. So we already have an issue.
We have that issue now already.
Right. So that's something we can solve now and discuss, and there's a big political debate on how we do it. The issue with the advent of this technology, perhaps it will exacerbate this problem, but there is no legal argument for the termination of a life if the life can be saved. You can grant the woman the right to end the pregnancy, and I don't want to have a kid is not an argument.
I just hate the term pro-life. Can I tell you why? I don't know if I hate the term pro-life.
I hate them both. Pro-choice and pro-life are terrible terms.
I agree with you. I don't like the term pro-life because a lot of people that call themselves pro-life, and after the baby is born, everything they do is to the opposite of that. There are a lot
That's a meme.
Well, there's a lot of...
It is a meme. I mean,
there's a lot of Republicans out there that vote against maternity leave. There's a lot of Republicans out there that vote against welfare and food stamps.
Why?
Well, I don't speak for Republicans, but I can tell you why I'm okay with food stamps and welfare.
So the important argument, the understanding is, while I largely don't agree with many of those Republican policies, I do understand why they vote for them.
Well, they think there's abuse and waste of money and people are lazy. And
That's not the principal argument.
What's the principle?
Babies should be raised by their mothers. Mm-hmm. Welfare creates dependency classes, which hurts the child and results in fatherlessness. I mean, listen to Thomas Sowell. If you want to listen to what conservatives actually believe, you have to listen to
And I'm wondering how many of those people were in a situation where they didn't have any money. A lot of the people that I've spoken to, food stamps, welfare, unemployment, maternity leave, have helped people in many cases.
Surface level.
But it helps people in many cases.
Extended problems, and that's the conservative argument.
Then what are they going to do then? If a mother has no money,
you need to build a culture. Go ahead.
Tell you. Yeah, it's all about you need to remove dependencies to be able to actually cut government.
So you don't think we should have unemployment benefits? We shouldn't have unemployment benefits. We shouldn't have maternity leave.
As an ideal,
yes.
Potentially we shouldn't have anything. But I don't think we should get rid of it while we're tying people's hands behind their back with this regulation that's enforcing this oligopoly and 4 companies dominate 80% of each market.
Wait, hold on.
You can't learn skills, and now you're going to take away the benefits, and then people are screwed. So what we need to do is we need to give people an opportunity to be able to thrive, and that's going to create the slack to where we can actually get rid of some of these
one of the worst jobs reports we've had in years, okay? And whether you want to blame Trump for that or not, or the tariffs, that's another conversation. But you're telling me someone who works really hard, who makes $30,000, $35,000 a year, very little money, living paycheck to paycheck, they lose their job. They're not fired for cause. They lose their job. And you don't think they should get maybe 3 months or 6 months of unemployment benefits?
In this situation, they absolutely should.
Well, you just said no to unemployment benefits.
Hold on,
I'm talking about as an ideal North Star. I want to get to the point where we're not relying on psychopaths.
You're thinking short term. Short term, we all agree.
Well, you need immediate help, yeah, of course.
Short term.
Yeah.
But we don't want to create a system that creates dependencies and perpetuates problems. So the conservative argument tends to be, we would be better off with neighbors helping neighbors and communities being connected to each other, and welfare systems break those things apart. So the idea is, how do we get to a place where when someone loses their job, his community, his neighbors are there for them? There's not this fear that it could ever happen because all of our culture is there.
We used to have private welfare. It would be very hard.
Okay, but I agree. But do you think it's neighbors policy-wise? Is it neighbors helping neighbors when we give some of the biggest tax breaks to the tech billionaires, like all the billionaires in this country? To me, that's not neighbor helping neighbor.
The tax argument is unrelated to the welfare.
Well, but you're talking about let's help people that are struggling. That's the conversation we're having, right?
This is what billionaires do, right? They say, "Oh yeah, I'm Warren Buffett. I care about the poor. I'm fine giving another 10% to tax. Just don't touch the regulatory monopoly that upholds 80% of my market share, and I'll make that deal."
But I don't believe that if you're a billionaire, you should be paying a lower amount percentage-wise on taxes than a household income of, say, $50,000 a year.
The issue is just we're out of time. We're going over. We got it wrapped. But the issue is simply this: in the long term, the span of generations, these policies will be destructive to the United States.
Yeah. For the record, Tim, before we go, I hope you don't think I'm a retard.
I had fun.
For the record, I was hoping we could swap hats. By the way, I was hoping we could do that.
I ain't wearing one of those hats.
Why? Why?
That would require a reveal.
I actually liked him.
No, I already took my hat off on Matan's show.
You know, I had so many people coming up to me saying, "Why are you going to do his show?" I said, "I have a soft spot for Tim. I don't know why. I
got no hair. We're brothers." Okay, we did go over. Do you want to add anything, shout anything out?
First of all, thank you for having me on.
I
had a good time. I really appreciate it, and I know we're going to be in Washington D.C. on November 8th. I'm really looking forward to that.
Dating.
You see how I am now. It's going to be a lot of fun up there. So my YouTube page is @PTL Radio Show. I don't have the following that Tim has, a sliver. But @PTL Radio Show. My website is pushingthelimits.live. I do a show Monday through Friday. YouTube, TikTok, everywhere. @PTL Radio Show. And again, I appreciate you guys. And
thanks for coming, man.
I appreciate you guys inviting me.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
And then, I would say just free Shane Malone, who's Lamond, who's the police officer who was trying to bring tensions down on Jan 6. And then free Ian now.org, freeiannow.org. Please sign that petition to help a crypto guy who's been unfairly prosecuted, as many of them have. And then I would just close off with watch History 102, which is a great show that gets into some of the themes that are behind all of these political disagreements. And to summarize, the Deep South was settled by English aristocrats who were for 200 years in South America first, so it's very authoritarian. The New England is also authoritarian because it was settled by Calvinist theocrats who wanted to create their own Church of England. So we need an alliance between Appalachia and the Midlands to tamp down some of this crazy.
And for the record, 10 seconds, I just want to say I've heard rumors allegedly that people on the left, they'll do your show and they'll say they'll come back and then they don't come back.
Indeed.
For the record, I am not one of those people. I've actually...
You also didn't ask for 50 grand.
It's true.
No comment there. I know who you're talking about. No comment. I would rather have a conversation, and I know you're like this too, and that's what I like about what you do. I would rather have conversations with people that I disagree with than people that I agree with. I think it's boring.
Here.
So I appreciate
Right
it.
on.
Thank you.
Take us home, Tate.
At Real Tate Brown everywhere. I'll see you in tonight for Timcast IRL, and we'll see you at the Great Riz debate. I'm excited for that.
Riz debate.
I don't think you're garbage, by the way.
All right, everybody, smash the like button, share the show. This has been The Culture War. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. We're back tonight at 8 p.m., but if you join our Discord server at timcast.com, we are pre-recording, and that means you will have backstage access and get to listen to everything. We're gonna go live for our members right now. It's gonna be fun. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see y'all then.